Good day to everyone, and welcome to our session for our National Pathways Training Academy. Good to see everyone on this Cyber Monday. Glad you're able to join us today. Excited to be sharing with you our session today on personal values and leadership. I'll go over the agenda in a moment. And then turn it over to Veronica for a review presentation from each of the accountability groups with our homework discussion, just a few ground rules and important dates for you to remember. By now, you should have received an invitation for a coaching session on December 8th, 13th, and 15th, I think are the days that we chose. If you haven't received the invitation or notice from your coach, groups 1 through 3 have Veronica Jackson. Groups 4 and 5 have David Leon. So you should have received something by now. If you have not, I know Veronica sent out calendar invites to everyone. If you haven't received anything from in groups 4 and 5, please let me know. And we'll get those invitations out to you for your coaching sessions in December. We try to make the assignments for homework pretty easy to remember. In general, they are due the second Monday of each month. You should continue to send those to me, to the Pathways email address, and CC me, and also CC Veronica Jackson on those. And then at the end of today's session, we'll cover the homework for today, which includes quite a bit, but just a heads up for your homework assignments this month, they will be due February 12th, right? So that includes your 360 assessment, your DEIA reflection, and completing your mission, vision, and your values. All of that February 12th. So you have a little extra time, but it is a pretty heavy load, a lot of homework that you'll have to get accomplished between now and then. So I do see in the chat from that we do have one that received an invitation. I'll go over, review those in a sec, and we'll make sure everyone in, especially in groups 4 and 5, have received their invitations for the coaching sessions. Also, as a reminder, if you're going to be absent from a class, please let us know in advance. We do take attendance since we're providing CRC credit for every session. To get the CRC credit, if you need that, they are general hours. You do need to be present, have your cameras on, and then also we'll send you an evaluation at the end of the session. You'll need to complete the evaluation form, and then you'll have access to download the CRC form. If you need instructions on how to download the CRC form, please refer to your Pathways guide. It includes the instructions in there. We do ask that you keep your cameras on throughout the training session. I know that you'll have to step out from time to time, take care of work and personal business. Feel free to just let us know in the chat that you're stepping away, and when you return, to turn your cameras back on. We try to also include at least 2 breaks, 15 to 20-minute breaks in each session. Looking at today's agenda, looks like we are doing 20-minute breaks today. All right, I see some more in the chat. So I will check on you all for your coaching session. If you're in groups 4 and 5, it looks like you probably have not received your invitations yet. So we'll get that squared away for you. All right, I'm trying to make sure I choose the right screen. I'll share the agenda for today. If you can see that, hopefully okay, that it's big enough for you to see. On our agenda today, we're talking about personal values and leadership, self-awareness. We'll be in your homework, talking about getting feedback from your colleagues, creating your personal values, mission, and vision, and discovering the tools that you need to create an inclusive work environment. So after my housekeeping notes, I'll turn it over to Veronica Jackson. She'll go through the groups and ask for reporting of your accountability sessions and homework discussions. After a break, we'll hear from Sharina Sewell from Virginia, DARS, who'll discuss defining leadership values, mission, and vision. And then after that afternoon break, go come back to me and we'll talk about self-awareness and adversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. At the end of the day, we'll review our homework and any questions that you may have that have popped up from today's training session. All right, so I'm going to stop my share. And I did receive notice from a couple of you, I think, that you haven't received your invitations for the coaching session. So we'll check on that, make sure you get those notices this week. Anything else? Any other questions before we move on to homework? All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Veronica Jackson. As you know, part of your work in the National Pathways is to meet with your accountability partners in your groups. So some of you have 3, some of you have 4, some of you have 5 in your group. So it's up to you to arrange in between our sessions, your accountability group meetings. And then we keep track of that during our homework reflection, which will be at the top of every session. So as much as possible, please participate in those, because that does go toward ensuring that you graduate this class successfully. So I'll turn it over to Veronica. Good morning, Veronica.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. As Dr. Freeman has already said, my goal for this morning is to get you talking about what you discussed in your accountability groups prior to our session today. One of the unique things that we like to do with our trainings is for you to have an accountability group because it's important for you to have that peer support. Although we are here to support you and help you and answer any questions you might have, there's something about a peer who is doing the same kind of work that you're doing at the same kind of pace, going through the same challenges that makes a little bit of a difference. And so that's the goal of that accountability group. The other goal is also for after this training is over, or we're finished with this training, for you to have a network of people that you can reach out to after we're done, right? So we hope that you are invested in building those relationships. If you have not been meeting yet, we hope that you get started with that. But our first test to see if you got together prior to our session is to see what you did in terms of discussing our most recent homework assignment. That homework assignment was all about your true colors and completing that behavioral assessment to get a better understanding of how you show up. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are some of your challenges? And then getting with your accountability group to discuss those. So for my 3 groups, I did give feedback with the exception of one person. I think you did submit the wrong assignment, but I enjoyed reading your essay. So let's start with group 1. Group 1, that group includes Stephanie, Michelle, Courtney, Kristen, and Gretchen. Did you get together? What did you discuss? And what are the colors that show up for your group?
This is Gretchen. I think I can't see everyone's pictures. I think we're all here. I'll say a little bit and then I'll stop so the other folks can jump in too. We did meet. Okay. And so we each reported out our colors and then talked a little bit about what we wrote in our essay. We all had some commonalities in struggling to write the essay, and we're all word counting. Do we hit 300 words? be feeling like we're back in school. So that was a little bit difficult for us, but we all did come up with something to write about and took it in different directions, which was kind of nice to hear about. I don't think we all had the exact colors, but I'm recalling maybe blue and gold were some commonalities amongst us. We all didn't have the exact same themes there. And we met for looking at a few, maybe half hour or so. And I think it was, we're getting to know each other. And so part of it was, what should we talk about? What are we supposed to talk about? So once we got through our colors and what we had written about, it was, we were just, okay, I think that's it. So I can anticipate our meetings maybe getting longer the more we get to know each other and build that rapport and relationship.
Thank you, Gretchen. Who else from group 1 wants to share?
This is Courtney. I can share a little bit. I mean, Gretchen covered most of it, I think. I believe we all had blue in common, and some of us had it more strongly than others, but that was a common color that we all shared. And so that we all kind of approach things in the relational way in our group. I think a few of us had gold as our second color, and some of us had green. I think Kristen and I had green, but I could be wrong about that. Sorry, Kristen. I think that's right, but I don't know. And so, yeah, but despite having similar color, responses, we all kind of had different approaches in the essay writing. So, as Gretchen said, I think that's it.
Thank you, Courtney. Anyone else from group 1? Okay, Kristen's chatting. Let me read that. Kristen said it was fun to get to know everyone and see the commonalities and approaches, but I think they covered it well. Thank you, Kristen. And then Courtney, did you say your second color was gold?
Mine was green, but my blue was much higher than anything. So, yeah.
Because what I have is Michelle is blue gold, and then you just said blue green for you. Stephanie is gold blue. Gretchen had a tie between blue and gold, and then Kristen had blue green. Is that correct for everybody? Yeah, there's a lot of blue in group 1. All right, so I'm moving to group 2. Group 2, we have Tara, Katie, and Michael. How did your group meeting go? What commonalities did you share? And anything else you'd like to share with the group?
This is Sitara. Can
Hi,
everyone
Sitara.
hear me as the interpreter? I just want to make sure you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. And give me 1 second. I need to pin Sitara. So hold on for 1 second.
Okay.
Give me a moment. Okay. I need to bring her. Okay. Great. Yes. Thank you. I am Sitara. It was Katie and Michael. Of course, please add your comments too. It was a get to know one another session. We talked about our roles in Voc Rehab. We had a great discussion about that. It was nice to grab this opportunity to get to know Michael and Katie and to talk about our analysis, who we admire. That was a big discussion that we had when we were together. I believe most of us had similar colors, if I remember correctly. Mostly we did also focus on who we admire, the various individuals that we would like to meet whether they were, alive or have no longer on this earth. And I thought we had a great session. Katie and Michael, is there anything you want to add?
I can go. First of all, it was also great to meet Satara and Katie as well. I think I was an odd duck because my colors are green and then orange. And I don't think I had a single answer for blue. But yeah, and then also there was some confusion on the homework. And so I believe Satara also did the essay for people we admire, and I did too. But then we found out that that's not due yet, so we're already done with that.
Michael, did you say your colors were green and orange?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so the piece regarding who you admire most, that is the first coaching session prompt. So that was one of the, I think I emailed you, Michael, and Dr. Freeman emailed you as well. So those pieces are pieces we'll discuss during the coaching session. So like you said, you're already ahead of the game. Anything from you, Katie?
I think that Satara and Michael covered it. We did talk for about an hour, I think.
Oh.
And it was a really good discussion about who we admire and why. And then we each talked about each of our choices and elaborated on that. And yeah, we talked less about our colors because we were having that discussion, but we did kind of cover sort of how our personality test shook out. But sorry about the not quite getting the homework assignment right, but we had a very good 1 hour meeting.
No need to be sorry.
Yeah. In fact, Satara and I are going to meet again to talk about outside. I have a request of her, and I'm going to get her consultation related to my work. So it was great. Yeah.
Satara, what was your second color?
I was a blue.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first color. And then I was a green for my second color, Veronica.
Thank you. All right, thank you, group 2. Group 3 is Carrie, Kayla, Carol, Nicole, and Damien.
Hello, everyone. This is Carol. So we had a really good call, lasted about an hour. We all did talk about our colors. The main thing that we discovered is we all had different colors of some sort. Kayla, her first color was blue, and she felt like her assessment would end up mostly orange. So that was kind of a surprise to her. Orange was her second color. Carrie and Damien both had a predominant color of green. And once I finish, I would like Damien to show y'all his supervisor, director has made a cube. She lives by this personality colors. She leads and lives it, really. Everyone has a cube. They're very well aware of the colors of everyone in the office. And, even to go as far as to explain, well, they did this because their colors such and such. So it's really neat. So Damien had the cube. He was mostly green. And he also made a great point that it's important to know like the traits of the different colors, because you may say if you're mostly green, you may want to strive to be a blue or a gold or whatever the case may be. Carrie's first color was also green, and her second color was blue. So she referred to herself as a teal, that she really has both sets of traits. And Carrie just got newly promoted, and I believe that's a director. She can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But she says she understands the importance of good communication with her team. She wants staff to understand the global picture to increase engagement. and she tries to lead with the why. My colors were gold with blue being close behind. I mean, I felt like it was a pretty good assessment. I've taken other self-assessments, and my view is they're only as good as you will be honest with them. But I felt like it was pretty dead on for me. I think everyone else did as well.
Thank you.
Veronica, I was also in this
Sure.
group. This is Nicole. I wasn't able to attend the session because I was in an all-day meeting that day, but I was predominantly blue, like overwhelmingly blue.
Thank you. Yeah, reading your homework. I just had blue. I didn't have a second color, so I didn't know if I missed it, but
I really
sounds right.
didn't. It was so dominant. I just had a few in like the other ones.
all right. Thank you for that.
Okay, Veronica, this is Damien.
Hi, Damien.
Carol, she did a wonderful job synthesizing and summarizing our discussion as a group. And she did ask me, she gave me a little homework since she was kind enough to put together that summary. And I got the easiest job of the team, and that's just to show my cube that she referenced. I'm not sure if you all can see this, but in my screen, it looks a little blurry. Do y'all see that eye right
Put it
there?
a little closer to the camera.
Let me see if it
Okay.
goes.
Oh, yeah,
Let
I
me
see the
see.
eyes.
All right,
Okay.
now let me show you the descriptions. Can you see the description?
A little bit.
Yeah, so mine says, so for green, it says sensible, logical, professional. And
Oh,
so basically, as Carol described, my supervisor gave each of her team members a cue based on how we responded to our inventories.
Mm.
So she does speak in terms of colors and our kind of interpersonal colors. And it's pretty cool because she's able to make the connections and help us to kind of understand scenarios and understand each other a little bit better as we interact with each other. So it's been very helpful for us.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's great. Look at y'all assigning someone to do different parts of the assignment. Look at you. That was great. Anybody else from that group have anything to share?
This is Carrie. I just wanted to say, yeah, thanks to we had a great discussion, and it was nice to get to know people. And we were all, of course, very intrigued by Damien's cube, and we were wondering what the other colors look like. If the eyes all over the cube, sort of a rare representative of the green and global, seeing it from different perspectives. So we were wondering, like, what does the blue cube look like? Or, what does the gold one like a trophy? Because I don't think anyone in our group had any gold. So we were very curious about these gold people or orange, I think too.
Mhm.
I'm not quite positive about orange, but yeah, we had some great discussion. And I'm
Thank
not
you.
the director. I'm just a regional director. We do have a new director with DVVI who started this morning. So yeah, as we've been mentioning, with Maine Division for the Blind and Vision Impaired, we've had a lot of our leadership retire. And so a lot of movement, but exciting.
Thank you. All right, group 4. Group 4 is Celia, Justin, Naira, Beth, and Kyla. And hopefully I said everyone's name properly.
I'll go ahead and start it off.
Hi.
And so, hi, I'm Naira. So we had a really good discussion. I think it went over. It was definitely an hour. Probably went over a little more than that. But we definitely talked about each other's colors. The main color that we all had in common was blue. I wrote down that Justin was green and blue. Beth was gold and blue. But I think she mentioned, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, I think she said her coworkers think that she's more of an orange. And then Celia, I have blue for her. And then Kyla, I have blue and green. And then myself is blue with like green being like a smaller number as far as the inventory. And then we kind of just talked about like our strengths and weaknesses and like our roles within vocational rehab and how the leadership skills kind of change in different settings. And then again, we just kind of talked about our experiences with leadership. And then we talked about like how things are different within like the different state agencies from like Montana and North Carolina and different things like that. So we had a really good conversation.
Thank you.
This is Justin. I'll just add a little bit. One of the things we talked about that was kind of interesting is a lot of us don't have or aren't currently working in leadership roles. And so where this is a leadership training, we did have a really interesting discussion, just more about our own personal styles. And, I think when Nira talked about, leadership skills in different settings, that was an important part of our discussion, where how are we using those skills in kind of our current role and how do we see ourselves, not just looking at the True Colors personality test. I think that was really informative. I thought that was a really, really interesting assessment, but how can we kind of use that information going forward? And the other piece that we talked about was, a lot of our different state VR agencies were going through turnover. We have, a shortage of staff. And so when we do have new transition counselors or new adult counselors coming on, we all kind of agreed, it would be helpful if there was a peer mentorship program, something that was a little bit more formalized for new counselors coming on, to have a mentor to help them kind of, as a guide and to help them learn the ropes. So that was something that was really cool that we all talked about as well.
Thank you, Justin. You brought up a good point, though. Even though you're not in a leadership role, anyone can lead. And I think that's one thing that we try to make sure everyone leaves these types of trainings understanding. You can lead from behind, right? Your leader needs you to help lead them. There's a perspective that you have that they might not have. There's a understanding of something you have that they may not have or they may not see. So we are all leaders. And so we encourage you to lead from where you are, no matter where you are, because who knows, you might be in that seat, especially with the turnover. Anyone else in group 4? All right, group 5, we have Annette, Gloria, LaWanda, and Andrew.
Hi, this is Annette from Maine. We actually designated that we were going to rotate kind of reporting out and we were going to take turns doing it. So I thought that was cool. We did meet. We met for just, I think, a little over an hour. And hats off to Andrew, because there's 3 of us that are in the same time zone, and then Andrew is 2 hours behind us. So trying to get a time that would work, is interesting, but he was in the car. And so kudos, hats off to him for dedication, for meeting with us on his way to a conference. So I just wanted to put that out there. Every single one of us in our group had blue as a color. 3 of us, blue was the first color. I was gold. Myself, all 4 colors were close. I was all within a point or 2 points with all the colors. So that made it very difficult for me to write my paper. I'm not going to lie, because I had no idea. Thankfully, I'm not in a leadership role as of yet. I'm more of a coordinator. So I think maybe that is probably why that came out that way. I'm not sure. Gloria, blue and green. Andrew, green and blue. And then LaWanda was blue and gold. So we were all very similar in the colors, which was great. And we did spend a lot of the time that we met getting to know each other, just kind of who we were, what brought us to Voc Rehab and, in the Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired, kind of what makes us tick. because we know that we're going to be, you know, meeting. And so we thought it was very helpful. Actually, Wanda kind of said, let's get to know each other. And I think that was just perfect. So we spent a majority of the time just kind of getting to know each other and making a connection. And which was really nice is that we all kind of have an interest in pre-ets and kind of what's going on. So there were some connections with, you know, how we can share information about our programs with each other, not related to this class, but outside of it. So we've already started that. So that was great. And yeah, so if anybody else in the group wants to speak, I'll turn it over. But we had a great first meeting. So it was wonderful.
Thank you.
This is Gloria, and that you hit the nail on the head. It was interesting enough for us to learn who we are as a team, the different aspects of the jobs that we take care of day to day. Being a blue-green and one person having gold, that's even better. I'm fascinated at the fact that, you know, we are in different facets. I'm VR. Andrew is in some other capacity. He is a human service rehab 1 and 2 counselor. Correct me if I'm wrong. I was jotting notes the whole time because I like learning about people and them to learn about me. But our similarities were the same, is helping to increase those, work with those who have disabilities, find their way. And the main thing was about pre-ets, because I work on transitions caseload in our area, and we do have students. However, we're trying to get the schools to come alongside and let us do what we do. But it was interesting. It was interesting. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you.
And I too would just say that Annette, she definitely did a great job just giving a rundown of our conversation. And I think I have a great team. I look forward to meeting with them over the next few months. So it was really good. It was very helpful. Thank you.
Andrew, did you want to share?
No, I think it was all summarized well. I think it was good to just kind of get a feel for all of our different things that we're doing. And I think throughout this process can learn from each other. And it was kind of interesting to hear how some of us work for essentially the same program through VR, but each state does things drastically different. So yeah, I think we can learn and share some ideas amongst each other and take those back to our own offices and areas and hopefully improve that way too.
Thank you. All right, well, that was great. You took that assignment and turned it into exactly what we wanted, which was an opportunity for you to connect and then present it to the group as a whole. And so thank you for assigning somebody to report and giving additional homework. Damien showing the cube. That's the kind of leadership that we want to see from you, because that means you're taking it and applying it in a way that's going to allow this to carry on even after the academy is over, and that's our goal. Did anybody have any aha moments from discussing the homework with their peers or completing the essay, the 300 word count essay that you had to complete for this assignment?
My aha moment is I don't ever want to go back to school.
Say more, Beth.
The 300 words was not a problem, but I don't ever want to have to write a paper after this.
I'm right in the middle of my master's program right now, so it was challenging to add that on top too. So
good points. Anybody else? Anybody inspired to go back to school for the 300 word count essay you had to do? Oh, okay. I was just, trying to put a little spin on it. Well, I enjoyed reading your essays. I think because we're in a virtual world, it really did add depth to each of you for me. So I hope you get that perspective, right? The fact that you got to share a little bit of your life and how you see things with us. even though it was 300 words, it was adding color to who you are for us, right? Because you got to connect and have an hour-long conversation with one another, but we're just over here reading essays. So I appreciate the work, time, effort, and energy you put into them. And to those that didn't get the right assignment completed, if you'll send your correct assignment to myself and Dr. Freeman so that we could just make sure that we have that saved. We are saving every assignment that you do so that at the end of all of this, we can get it all back to you so you can compile it together in possibly a portfolio. I don't know how we're going to do that yet. I'm making that up as I go. But we want to make sure that you understand you're not just submitting it for busy work, right? We want to ensure that you have this together at the end of the academy to carry on in whatever way you choose to do so. All right, so outside of don't want to go back to school aha moments, any other aha moments from the assignment that you did from our last session?
I was my aha was when I initially did the assessment itself, I was a little bit confused on what my colors were. First it was blue. I'll say, okay. But then the orange popped in, but it wasn't that. I needed to count the highest score. And then when I joined the group, I found out just about everybody was blue. And that was a good thing for me. That was my aha. I got somebody I can connect with now.
Yes, most of this group, the first color is blue. And that was interesting to me. Dr. Freeman was putting in the colors for the last two groups, and I was doing the first three groups, and I'm just like blue, blue, gold, gold, blue. I mean, majority of you are blue, and so that was interesting. Anything else you'd like to share about the homework assignment? Well, Damien, if you could get a picture of the other cubes, we'd like to know what the other cubes look like. So whoever the person is in your office that created those, tell them that we are intrigued. We need evidence of what the other colors look like so we can make our own cubes that represent our colors. You say yes?
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess that'll be some what was that, some extra credit points?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, yeah, the credit of thank you so much.
Let me see what I could do.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, I have nothing else on the homework assignment other than the fact that, behavioral diversity is important. And although there are a lot of blues in here, your blue might show up completely different than the other person's blue. So it's important to take that into consideration when you're doing these types of assessments. Something might show up one way for you, but show up a different way for the other person. So even though the color is the same, the way that it shows up could be completely different. So keep that in mind. And as you go into the next homework assignment, as Dr. Freeman has already shared, there will be a little bit more work to be done, but you have more time to do it. So my hope is that you approach it the same way you did this one, with enthusiasm and excitement about connecting with one another. So I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Freeman before we go to our break.
Thank you, Veronica. Did you want to share your colors?
I need to do it again because I don't really talk about the second color. So I think I need to do it again so that I can talk both colors because I don't want to miss the second one.
Your primary one last time I think I remember is gold.
It's gold. Yes, my primary was gold, but I don't even remember what my secondary was.
Okay, cool.
Does anybody else here primary color gold? What did it say about golds? Beth, what did it say about your gold? You don't remember?
You're the organizer.
Need all the details, give me all the information.
Yes.
Tell me what time to be there, what to wear, what not to wear, what kind of shoes, what the door that I'm going to enter looks like, what color it is. Tell me everything. Tell me all the information. And I ask all the questions, and it is exhausting for my husband.
One that I have so many questions, and I need all the answers and all the check boxes checked.
Yeah, so my husband and I just came back we did like a little marriage retreat, just the two of us. And we were reading this book, and in the book, It referred to my personality as a babbling brook, meaning I just talk and talk until till I fall asleep, really. And it referred to him as a dead sea. He says nothing unless he has to. Like you could ask him how the day was, and he said it was a day. It was a day. Every day is a day, right? But if you ask me how the day was, I'm gonna be like, oh, I got up this morning. I had the best cup of coffee. It was just right. The temperature was amazing. After my coffee, I went for I'm gonna tell you every detail, and you're gonna shut down in the middle of me talking. So yeah, I am all the way gold. That's why I don't remember what my second color is. And then Dr. Freeman, what color were you?
Orange. Orange and green. So yeah, I remember when I first took the True Colors test in 2009, I was gold and blue. And I think the only point I want to make about these behavioral assessments is that you change over time, and your different roles, responsibilities, different pressure points, different life events that occur can make you shift in how you approach life. And so I've definitely shifted since 2009. And so over the last couple of times, I think the last time we took this test, we were doing it in Delaware. And I think I was probably fighting the orange because my first impression of oranges were, oh my God, I don't want to be an orange. Let me take that again. I did that wrong the first time. But every time I've taken it since the last few years, I've always come up orange. And so my aha moment for this time has been, I'm just going to accept it. This is who I am. This is how I'm showing up. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's another good point about behavioral assessments. It's not about perfection, about who is a better leader, what color, what personality style makes the best leader. We are all great leaders. We all show up differently. We just do it in our own way. So our goal through all of these is to give you the tools and the resources you need to be the best version of you in your leadership role. And so, yeah, at least it does say I'm witty and charming as an orange. So I'm gonna go with that. So we are a little bit early. Let's go ahead and take, if you all don't mind, a 17-minute break. We'll come back at noon with our guest facilitator, our guest faculty today, Sharina Sewell, who will be discussing with us our mission, vision, and values. Hi, Sharina. Looking forward to your presentation. So we'll take a quick break. It's now a 16-minute break, so I'll stop talking so you can make full use of that. Thank you. All right, so welcome back and thank you for joining us for this next session. We're going to be hearing from Sharina Sewell, who is our guest faculty today. And Sharina will be sharing with us about the mission, vision, and values. But I'll do a quick introduction before I turn it over to Sharina. Sharina Sewell is with Virginia Department of Aging and Rehabilitation Services. I may be saying that wrong. Anyway, she's been with them for 19 years. For the past 7 years, she has served as district director of the Capital District. Prior to that, she was a unit supervisor. Sharina is a former vocational counselor and a job coach. She's a graduate of Virginia Commonwealth University in the Department of Rehabilitation Counseling and a former adjunct professor there. She is also a member of Virginia APSE, and most importantly to us, she is a faculty on our National LEVR Supervisory Training Academy. Internally at Virginia, she serves as a coach and mentor and has been the recipient of numerous awards, including the State Rehabilitation Council's Roy J. Ward Employee Leadership Award. I recently got to witness Sharina presenting at the National CSAVR Conference, She is an amazing presenter. So I appreciate her being with us and sharing with us today. So I will turn it over to Sharina. Hi,
Thank
Sharina.
you. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for that very warm welcome. I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot. It is so good to meet all of you via virtual means, but it's all good. We're here. Thank you for having me. So, as Dr. Freeman mentioned, I'm going to be speaking with you all today. Hopefully, we'll have some interaction going on throughout. I do have a PowerPoint that I'll bring up in just a minute, but I hope that we do get some interaction. If you have any questions, please don't feel like you have to wait to ask. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. Feel free to just, say, hey, I have a question, whatever you need to, because I don't want you to lose anything you might want to ask. And maybe you don't have a question, maybe you just want to add something for value, and that's always appreciated. So with that being said, I will bring up and share my PowerPoint with you, so you can all see it. All right. Can everybody hear me okay? Everybody good? Awesome. Right. All right, so we're going to be talking about defining leadership values, mission, vision, and goals. So let me go ahead and get this going. Here we go. Some of this I know that's on here you may not be able to see well, but I'll be reading some of it, so that's okay. So let's talk about leadership values. So our leadership values, and most people, when they hear the word value, they think of immediate terms. They think of different quotes or sayings, or just one word answers, if you will. But really what leadership values are, they are the core beliefs and principles that guide all of us, whether we're a leader already, whether we aspire to be one, if you're in a management role, those are the beliefs and principles that guide us in everything that we do. It allows us to oversee processes, to make decisions within our offices, and really overall to manage other people. And there is a difference between leadership values and personal values. You'll find as we talk a little bit more, you'll see that some of those, they may overlap, some may be the same, but there is a difference, although there are some similarities. So when we talk about the world of leadership, and again, that could be wherever you sit right now or wherever you aspire to be, values cannot be overstated enough. They really do form the backbone of our character. We may not know it just without thinking about it, but a lot of what we do day to day, it is based on our values. The way in which we respond to others, that's rooted in our values. The way in which we rise to challenges, that's based on our values. And the way in which we give direction, that's based on values. And so a lot of this, as we continue and hear more about it, you're going to say, hopefully you'll have some aha moments and you'll say, oh, that's why I do that. Or, oh, that makes sense that this person feels this way. It's because of their values. So successful leaders, they recognize the need to not only define their values, but to really live them out in everything that they do. One of my favorite books is Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. I'm sure some of you have heard of her. She's a phenomenal author, even better during TED Talks. If you ever get a chance to read the book Dare to Lead, or even just look at some of her TED Talks on various topics, please do, because she's wonderful. But she talks about the importance of practicing our values, that they show up every day. When we show up, so do our values. So we have to be clear about what we hold important, so that when people see us and they meet us, they understand where our intentions come from, our words, our thoughts and behaviors. So with that said, I have something on the screen here. I'm going to read this to you. I'm sorry. So it says, the tagline on my email signature says, "In life, be fierce." People have asked me time and again what that means to me. And really, it incorporates what kind of leader and overall what kind of person I will be when I show up in any situation. The way I look at being fierce has to do with a feeling, an emotion, or action that's something heartfelt. As a leader, I want everything I do to come from the heart. Sometimes my employees may need me to be understanding. Sometimes they will need me to be encouraging. And other times they will simply need me to be there just to solve a problem. But no matter how I show up, I have to show up in a way that's heartfelt and authentic. Authenticity is important to me. How I show up and when I show up matter. Being consistent is everything. As a leader, I believe in what you say, and how you say it goes a long way. So I tend to didn't mean to cuss at y'all. I tend to shoot from the hip, but I try my best to do it with kindness and compassion. This has allowed for continued positive relationships, no matter what the topic is. It doesn't matter what the conversation is or the topic that must be addressed, be it good or bad. It means something to have my staff hear from me. This includes addressing the what, why, who, how. And at times it's me saying, I don't know, or I don't have the answer yet, but I'm working on it. Two-way communication is key. Sharing ideas, giving input, and hearing others' perspective is part of leadership. I never want to be the only person in the room talking. I believe in showing up for people when they need me, and also believe in letting them take the lead, which will foster their own independence and growth. Leaders should always be prepared to show up and do the work. I've had days when I'm not performing at my best, yet as a leader, I feel it's still important that I show up and give what I can. In the past, I have been mentored and shaped by other leaders that have allowed me to make big mistakes that were necessary for my own growth, which is why giving people the grace to make mistakes, to learn and grow, it's a huge component of my leadership philosophy. Personal and professional growth can go hand in hand. And if I can help someone on their journey, I will. Asking, what do you need from me, or would you like to be involved in this, makes a difference. I expect my teams to be honest with me. I'm not one that needs a yes man in my corner. I would want my team to have good ethical values because in my opinion, that is the foundation of decision making and serving others. Lastly, as a leader, I allow myself to protect my peace. This means I set boundaries at work. It's important that my staff know when I am available to them and when I'm not. I allow myself to say no without feeling bad about it or putting undue pressure on myself. And lastly, I remind myself that while everyone may not agree with me or the decisions I make, I'll feel comfortable with them because at the end of the day, I did my best. Now, based on what you heard, can you kind of point out, I'm going to come back to that in just a minute, but based on what you heard, when you think about values, okay, and what values are, which is really a way of believing, it's a belief system. Believing what we hold is important. That's what values are. And based on what you heard, did you hear any values that this person might have as a leader? Anything that stands out to you? You can come off the mute. Don't make me call your name. I cannot sing, but I will.
Protecting her peace and not setting boundaries was one I heard.
Thank you, Lawanda. Protecting peace.
She said honesty was very important to her, and she didn't just want her employees to say what she wanted to hear.
That's another value. So value, and a lot of people, when they talk about values, there are some common ones you hear, right? Like honesty, integrity. You hear those buzzwords a lot, but those are definitely values heard in this. Anyone else?
Communication.
I was looking at the one, good ethical values. Yeah, because that is the foundation that leads to the integrity of that person, that they can be trusted.
Yeah.
And you don't always get that. You get a shadow of what that person is truly.
Right, right. Thank you. Anything else you noticed in this? Any values that come out?
From what I noticed, kind of the confidence and the ability to make decisions regardless of everybody agreeing or not, knowing that it was with best interest. I see a lot of leaders struggle with that, with wanting to please and impress everyone, and that's not possible. So I think just always having the best interest of who she's serving at heart and making decisions based on that, not off of everybody's emotions and feelings.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Anything else? Anyone else?
Also, the permission and space to make mistakes.
A big
From
one.
herself and her staff.
And one of the things that I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that's important when we start talking about values is, we all have values, right? We have personal values, we have professional values. And it's always interesting to me to see and kind of, we have our own values, but where do we sit with other people's values? So if I share values with someone else, am I acknowledging it and respecting it and understanding it the way I would want someone to do the same with my values? And they could be similar values, That's a good one to point out. Thank you. Any last ones? Any other comments?
The one that says authenticity is important to me, being authentic.
Absolutely. Good. Thank you for doing that. One of the things, the reasons I brought this up, this is my leadership philosophy that I had to think about, and it was something that I was asked to think about and do and kind of put in writing as a part of my own growth, as someone who was a manager and then someone who was going into more of a leadership role as a district director. What I learned is that as I was moving and growing, people, while they knew me, they wanted to know me. They're like, oh, we know Sharina as a counselor. I kind of know her as a supervisor, getting to know her as a manager, but who are you really? What do you stand for? What do you value? And so with all of that, and this was feedback that I received when from various people through my 360 evaluation. And so I started thinking about values, because it was important, because as a manager of an office, a lot of the things I do, they were probably going to be based on my values. We have policy, right? But a lot of the way we react to things and the way we interact with people, the way we expect people to respond to us, it's based on value. So it was important for me to take the time to really think about that and put that into words. And so that's something I encourage anyone who's in a managerial position, a supervisory position, any leadership position to do, to really sit down, quiet time, and just think about, what are your values? All right, moving on. So our values, I want to talk a little bit about why leadership values matter and what are they anyway. As I said before, they're similar to personal values because they affect a lot of what we do in terms of decision making as managers and directors in our workplace. They determine how we execute leadership. Our values drive how we make decisions, how we respond to others. It also helps us create our team environment. If you think about it, you ever have interviews with people, and sometimes while they're answering questions, the interpretation is based also on your values, and you look to see if they're going to fit in with your team. How do they fit in with everyone else in the office? That's actually based on your values. Our values, they influence our work culture, just giving an example of that. And they also have a huge impact on our performance. And this is why it's important while we're talking about this today. So we're going to talk about, as we value, we shall lead. everyone has different values, right? Everyone that's on this Zoom today, there are probably some similarities. I'm sure we share values, but they are probably ranked differently. But we all have different values, and they're all based on our past experiences in work, our past experiences growing up. They're based on our habits, the way we were raised, our background. There are cultural aspects to values. And having a strong set of core values as a leader, it really helps build trust and respect amongst your team. Because again, it helps them understand who you are, where you come from, what you're about. That kind of builds a foundation, which is why values, not only talking about them, but living them out is so important. It creates a foundation and it just helps how you influence your team in a positive way. It also goes towards how you influence them in a negative way, because that's possible too. But your values, they really do change behavior, and based on that, they affect performance. Our culture, your organization's culture, it's a reflection of its leaders' values. It's our guide that we hold dearly, or we should, if there are true values. And the important thing to remember as you're thinking about your own values and how that is displayed in your offices and throughout your day and the people you work with, it's not just your values that you should be of concern. It's also those that kind of fall under you, those that you manage and you supervise, because they have values as well. And it's important that you recognize those, you look to them not only for direction, but also inspiration and motivation. So on this slide, this is a list of values. And again, some of them are very small, but you can kind of see some of the values that are listed here. Any search on the internet, you'll be able to find kind of like a list of values. When I started thinking about what my values were, there were some, I knew off the top of my head, like I value this, I value that, authenticity, integrity, and so on and so forth. Peace was another one. Every value isn't listed, but when you look at this list, it's nice to kind of see what you can kind of circle or check off or highlight. And because it doesn't encompass every value, it's important that you're making a running list of your own that aren't on this list. But when we talk about how we define our core values, one of the things that I encourage you to do, one of the things I started doing when I started reflecting on this was I made my own personal values list. And I started with a list just like this, because again, I had my own, but I'm like, yeah, there's 5 of these. What else? And I highlighted each value that meant something to me. Not just because I like the word, but I really thought about, well, why? What does that mean to me? So, for example, on this list, if creativity was a value for me, I wouldn't just say, oh, yeah, I like creativity. That's nice. I'm creative. I wish I was creative, but I thought deeply about it. How do I express that? What does it mean to me? How is it displayed in my everyday? And that's kind of how you want to start thinking about your values. And then I started grouping them together. So, example, honesty, integrity, and authenticity. If I highlighted those, I would group those together to simplify that for myself. Optimism, resiliency, things like that, I may also group together. Perseverance. It was helpful in doing that so that I can group my values. And from there, those were just some of the ways in which I started to really focus on what my values were, keeping in mind the importance of, if this is what I'm saying and this is what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to share this with those around me, I have to make sure that I'm going to walk my walk, right? You can't just say, I value this, and then no one sees it, because then you're just a liar, right? And we don't want that. So it's important that as you go through your values and you start to focus on them, that you are really just thinking about, what does this look like my everyday? I want to just show a quick snip from Simon Sinek, who I adore. in my head, we're best friends and we have lunch every third Saturday. One day he'll meet me there for lunch once he knows we're best friends. But he also, like my friend Brene, he's written a lot of books. He's written books mostly about leadership on any level, like how to be a good leader, conversations, leading with yes, the power of speaking, things like that. And he does a lot of TED Talks as well. I encourage you, if you ever want to start your day with a quick, something quick to listen to, I would start with Brene Brown or Simon Sinek. And I don't know if his last name is Sinek or Sinek. I usually change it up, but this was a clip that I found that I've heard several times before that I really like. And I just wanted to share it with you because he's talking about leading with your values. I'm only going to share just a couple minutes of it and not the whole thing, but I am going to, hopefully it will play. How do we get our customers? Oh, wait a minute. I want to make it bigger. Hold on. I'll make you guys smaller for a minute.
Customers and suppliers to buy into our why, to buy into our mission.
How do I get somebody that I went on a date with to fall in love with me? It's like you're asking the wrong question. You have to be clear and open about what you stand for. And just like when you hire somebody, you want to make sure that when you hire them, that they share your values, that they believe in your vision. You know, they don't just think it's corny, you know, or marketing, but rather that they buy into it. And sometimes we'll make mistakes, and sometimes people will come and they fall in love with it after the fact. But we try on balance to bring people that we believe will get along with the people who work here because of our values and our cause. And so too is it with suppliers. I think that or clients, it's the same thing, which is we stand for what we stand for, and our goal is to attract people who believe what we believe. The more vocal we are about what we believe, those people literally will come to us or turn down a competitor who may even be cheaper because they would rather do business with us. And so it's okay to do business with a supplier that doesn't believe what we believe, but we have to go in with eyes open, knowing full well that this is just a transaction. You offer a decent product, you give me a decent price. This is not going to be a lifelong relationship. This is a transactional relationship. And when it's done, I'm just going to hold you to very different standards, right? Because when it's transactional, we're a little less patient when things go wrong. And sometimes we kid ourselves. You just can't do that too often. It's like
All right, so I just wanted to share that clip with you because one of the things that Simon is talking about here is, again, when people see your values, when your values are played out. And sometimes the great thing about this is that when your values are being played out and other people share the same values, they want to they want to share time with you and space with you, you know? And so it's important. And that's kind of why people gravitate to certain people. It's because they share the same values. It's because that no matter what happens or what decision is being made or what's going on in their world, they will gravitate to that person. And it just kind of helps build a culture of an organization, which is why it's so important that when you really understand your values, you not only talk about them, they're playing out in your everyday. And it's okay to share them. You should share them with the people that are closest to you, your staff that you supervise, those that supervise you. I remember when I started, or my boss, came to us from a different agency, newer, about 3 years ago or so. And we were talking, kind of having a one-to-one. And I remember I wanted her to get to know me. And so during the one-to-one, I said, okay. I said, so for me, this is what I value. And I started off with that because I wanted her to have, and I wanted her to do the same thing for me. I wanted her to understand, this is why I do what I do. This is why it's important for you to offer this to me or to do this to me. You know, so some of the things had to do with, openness and communication. I talked to her about protecting my peace. And I remember saying, I, unlike some of my other colleagues, may not respond to you if you send me an email at 9 p.m. I said, please don't expect me to come in the next day and you would have said, did you read my email? I was like, you're going to get no, because that's me protecting my peace, but I will read it, you know, at my earliest convenience when I'm in my work mode again. So there were certain things that I had to talk about with her, so that she can understand what my values were and I can understand what she valued. I hold the same conversation with those that report to me every year during our evaluation. We talk about our values. We talk about if there's anything that I'm doing that's, I don't want to use the word in violation, but they're just like I don't value that. That's not helpful for me. And it's just a good conversation to have. And it can get deep sometimes, but it's very helpful when you're around these people, you know, 40 plus hours a week, just to have those conversations. I'm going to go on to talking about defining our mission, but does anyone have any comments or questions about values before I go on? Okay.
I just wanted to make a comment about what you just said in reference to you attract people that has the same values as, and that's true to some degree, until they get to know you and those values that are really written on your heart, so to speak, that sometimes deter them from coming to you as well.
Absolutely. Do you know why that happens though?
I have no clue. I'm just being myself.
Well, you know what, sometimes what happens is that there's a shift in what you value versus what the other person values. They may not feel the same way. It doesn't matter that much. And when we hold our core values, and usually people might have a top 3 to 5 of core values, those are the ones that when your back is against the wall, those are the ones that come out. When you really need to become expressive, if there is a high stake on the line, those are when those core values really come out. And that is when you'll find people either gravitate, they meet you where you are, or they kind of back away. And it's because their core values don't really align with yours. And that's okay, but that's kind of what happens.
I just had a quick question. There was one section where he talked about when something is a transactional relationship, that sometimes people have less patience. I may have missed the piece just before that, but was he talking about that in terms of when there's a transactional relationship, the importance of values matching up? I just wanted to make sure I was kind of clear on that specific point.
And thank you for that, Justin. Really what he's talking about in that example, different transactions, if they're quicker transactions, and this could be, let's say, in the business world or even in our own world, there are quicker transactions with people. You might have quicker transactions that don't happen so much with some of your stakeholders day to day. Like, you know, I meet with my WIOA stakeholders maybe twice a month. Those are quicker transactions, whereas my staff and my boss, I speak with them every day. Those transactions happen more often. So those values that come out in those other transactions that don't happen as often, they're going to look different than those that come out with folks that you see every day and you meet with every day. So the truth is that those transactions that don't occur that much, they're very quick. They may not matter. And so a lot of times people, I don't want to say they don't matter, but they don't matter as much as those with the people that you work with most often. One of the things about transactional relationships is that the longer you have them, though they may be short in nature, the longer you have them over periods of time, you will also find and get a little bit more of an understanding of what everyone's values are. They will understand yours and you will understand theirs. But because the transactional relationships are so short, it takes time for those things. And it looks different, which is why it's so important that the focus, the bigger focus should be those that you're interact with on a regular basis, because those other ones, they're going to come and go, but we still have to focus on them as well. Any other questions, comments? Moving on. All right.
If you're living a healthy lifestyle,
Simon, I don't want to talk to you right now anymore. Okay, so let's talk about defining your mission. So your mission statement. We all of you all have agency or organization mission statements, right? So do any of you know what your mission statements are? Like right now off the top of your head? What is it? Raise your hand. Just raise your hand if you like know it. Okay. Okay. Miss Meadows, you were on mute, but I heard you. I think I heard you. I think I read your lips correctly and said, oh, you don't? Okay. That's all right. All right. But you ever read a mission statement, including your own, and you ever think, I wonder who came up with that? I know I do. I thought, well, who came up with that? How long has it been our mission statement? I always wonder, do they ever change it? I don't even know if it needs to be changed, what do they have to go through to change it? I wonder if they look at other state agencies' mission statement and they do a comparison and they say, oh, we want ours to be better than theirs. Oh, they talk about this, we should too. And I wonder, is our mission statement doing what it's supposed to do, its function? Meaning, does it talk about how we function as an agency? Does it talk about who we serve as an agency? Does it talk about what function is performed as an agency? And so when you look at mission statements, and sometimes it's kind of fun to look at them just because I always wonder who are these people that come up with it. And depending on the business, you can tell that they have an amazing marketing team that does. And for others, it is leaders. It's people like us. It's the voices of staff sometimes that come together to define a mission statement. So it's really interesting about that. But one of the characteristics of a good mission statement is it captures the agency's or the organization's motivation of why we do what we do. Why do we exist? Why are we here? It's supposed to kind of help us focus with our right brain component, meaning there's a little bit of emotion there, but there is a bigger business meaning to it than say a vision statement. So I want to mention that the business purpose and business mission, they're rarely given adequate thought. It's probably perhaps because is perhaps the most important cause of business frustration and failure. And Peter Drucker said this: business purpose and business mission are so rarely given adequate thought that perhaps the most important cause of business frustration and failure, meaning a lot of times people don't go back to their mission to see if it needs to be revised. And again, that's a lot of work because once you establish who you are and what your function is, you kind of put it out there to the world, right? And you don't want to change it because you don't want people to forget who you are. So a lot of times people don't go back to it. And it kind of is what it is. But I want to show you what our at Virginia Department for Aging and Rehab Services, what our mission statement is. So our mission statement says that it's to improve employment, quality of life, security, and independence of older Virginians with disabilities, and their families. So that's our mission statement. Interestingly enough, when I started at DARS, I don't recall that being our mission statement. Having said that, I don't think I paid attention to the mission statement that much because I was a new counselor and I think I just wanted a job. But when you look at it, a mission statement used by anyone, any agency, any company, it is supposed to be simple and concise. It, again, talks about why we're here. So in this example, it's to improve employment, quality of life, security, and independence. It talks about who we're serving. We're serving older Virginians, Virginians with disabilities, and their families. If there were any stakeholder who wanted to know what we're doing, who we're doing it for, then they would look at our mission statement. And based on our mission statement, they would say, all right, so show me how you're doing this. Our mission statement, it's really there to demonstrate our leadership overall at the top level. And also it has a lot to do with our agency's reputation. So that's why it's important to get it right. Does anyone want to share, if you know it, wherever you work, your agency, your organization, do you have your mission statement where you want to share it?
I have mine hanging on the wall.
All right, Beth, I love it. Go ahead and read your mission statement.
This is Delaware DVR.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I'm gonna grab it so I don't have to strain my eyes. Our mission statement is we provide individualized services to employers and people with disabilities, developing career pathways that link qualified employees to jobs, resulting in greater independence and more inclusive workplace.
Thank you, Beth. Can I just say, first of all, I'm jealous because I would love to change our mission statement. I want the terminology career pathways in our mission statement. Did you all, do you know if that's been recently updated by any chance?
I'm gonna say that it probably has, because I think everything in Delaware includes pathways.
Okay, I love that. I love that.
Nicole, wouldn't you agree? Everything in Delaware has pathways in it, every division.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so listen, so having said that, so both you and Nicole said the same thing. So what does that say? Based on that alone, what do we know? We know that your agency's focus is career pathways. It is on not just jobs, right? It is focusing on career pathways. And that's why I love that you guys put that in there, because it says a lot. It kind of tells what the goal is. So I love that. Anyone else have their mission statement that you want to share?
This is Kyla.
Hi, Kyla.
I work for Montana Vocational Rehabilitation. So our mission is Montana Vocational Rehabilitation and Blind Services promotes opportunities for Montanans with disabilities to have rewarding careers and achieve maximum personal potential.
Love that. Okay. So based on Montana's mission statement, what are some key things you hear? If you were a person looking for an agency, what's drawing you to it?
I'll say the motivation part.
Mm-hmm. And I think you mentioned, Kyla, something in addition to motivation, career opportunities. Is that?
So we promote having rewarding careers and achieve maximum personal potential.
Love it. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else want to share their agency's mission statement? It's important for us to, look at our mission statements and get to know them so we understand what they say and why they are what they are. Early on in my managerial career, I kept getting these phone calls for people who really didn't need to speak with me or anyone in my area. They really needed to speak to someone on our Office of Aging side, because again, our mission statement says independence of older Virginians. And so they didn't realize, of course, that there were different divisions and so on and so forth. But those are all things that are important to know. Why some people say, well, I'm not sure how they got this number. Why are they calling there? And it's like, well, look at our mission statement. This is who we serve. This is what we do. So it kind of makes sense. Take a look at some of these fun mission statements here, which I love. I just thought it was really cool to look at these. So Nike's mission statement is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Walmart is we save people money so they can live better. I actually love Walmart's mission statement. It is simple. And you know what it hits? Do you know what it targets? Saving people money. That's all they had to say, right? All right, Starbucks. We have any Starbucks fans? I'm sure we do. With every cup, with every conversation, with every community, we nurture the limitless possibilities of human connection. I mean, what does that say? It's like, so, and you have to read it that way. Otherwise, it's just not effective, you know? Tesla, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. The neat thing about Tesla is they are telling you who they are and what they care about right there, which is marketing. That's an amazing mission statement. So people who value those things, they're going to say, Teslas look stupid, but God, I really value what they're saying. That matters to me. Look at, oops, I'll go back, Karina, sorry. Look at JP Morgan. Sorry, I keep going back. I'm trying to minimize you all. JP Morgan says we aim to be the most respected financial services firm in the world. Womp womp, theirs is okay, but it just tells me they're a financial service firm. That's nice. Didn't tug at my heartstrings, but the whole point is, you know, and then especially companies like these, their mission statements, they matter because they have competition, right? When you have competition, you kind of have to stand out a little bit more than most. But this goes back to values. When people start creating their mission statement, they talk about who do we want to serve? How do we want to do it? What's important to us? Independence is important. Career pathways is important. All of those things, and that's what drives our agency mission statements. So let's talk about how you can make your mission statement work for you. And the reason I want to talk about this is because truth of the matter is that for most of us, we probably weren't involved in developing or coming up with our agency mission statement, right? It's there. Someone else did it or a group of people did it, but it's important that we think about how we make it work for us. Because as I said earlier, it's important that we know it, that we understand it, and so on and so forth. So we talked about how the mission statement, it defines the purpose of the agency, but beyond that, I want to talk about why you think it's important, how you can use it as a manager or director or leader in your own agency. How do you think that you can utilize your mission statement? Just as, think about what it says, think about it, just a couple responses, if you will. How do you think that you can use your mission statement from the seat you sit in today? And anyone can answer that. Think about it.
This is Carol.
Mm-hmm.
So that others know what your purpose is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Carol. That's right. So people know what your purpose is, why you're there. What else? How else can you use it from your seat? Are there, we have managers on this Zoom? If you're a manager, I'll give you a hint. One way that we can think about it, and I know because we're all experiencing this right now in our agencies, it has to do with recruitment. From our seat, from where we sit, knowing our mission statement has a lot to do with recruitment. Not only if you're a manager or supervisor, even your staff. Your staff can be better recruiters than all of us, you know, because they talk about their jobs, they talk about what they do, how they got there. So knowing the mission statement can be used and should be used when it comes to recruitment, advertising, public awareness. You ever go, you or your staff or any of your colleagues go to, you know, transition fairs, job fairs, you know, community events where you might have a table and some signage. It's important to know what your mission statement is, because you can make it work for you. And if you know it, hell, snazz it up a bit. You know, if you're talking about career pathways, a lot of people are going to say, okay, what's that? That is your chance. Snazz it up, jazz it up. Snazz is not a word. I made that up and I like it. Snazz it up. And you can, you know, really make it work for you when you're really trying to build awareness, not only of your agency, but your specific office, the people that you work with. And it's just a good way to utilize that. So if you're in front of anyone and you can talk to those counselors who work with you, who are under you, talk to them about this. If anyone who is in a master's degree program now, or thinking about a career change, and they were kind of like, well, what do you do? What does, Virginia DARS do? What does this mean? It's important for them to start with the mission statement, because that again talks about what our purpose is. So we have to start there. If people don't want to do that, then they may not want to work with us. So make your mission statement work for you. It's going to be really important.
Hey, Sharina, you
Yeah.
did have a couple of comments in the chat.
Thank you. I can't see the chat, so thank you. Go ahead.
I'll start with the mission statement from Gretchen, Minnesota's general mission statement: empower Minnesotans with disabilities to achieve their goals for employment, independent living, and community integration.
Okay, that's Minnesota?
That is.
Minnesotians, love it.
And
Okay.
then from Tennessee, Kristen shared, strengthen Tennessee by strengthening Tennesseans. And she said, we just changed it to this maybe a month ago.
Oh, is that the whole thing?
Kristen, you'll have to tell us more. Oh, yes, she does say yes. I forgot her mic isn't working.
Okay, read it one more time for me, please.
Strengthen Tennessee by strengthening Tennesseans.
Why? Okay, so that is so unique. That is so unique.
It is.
And I'm going to leave it right there, but I will say what's really nice about that is that they are looking broadly in order. So if you care about your state, and most people who live in their state, right, they care about their state, they want their state to win. You care about your state, that's what they led with. That's really unique.
It is innovative, and she does say they wanted something simple, and they got it.
I love it. I love it. I think that's really innovative and really unique, because it just talks about, this is who we are. If you want to strengthen your state, this is what we do. I love it.
That really kind of goes against that argument that you hear on the national level where we should just do away with VR. And well, you can't, because we're strengthening our residents. So we're vital to this state.
Absolutely.
Justin also shared that their mission statement of VR has shifted from a focus on finding employment to career pathways.
Okay, Justin, remind me, what state are you in?
Yeah, I forgot to put that in there. I'm with Maine VR.
Maine. Oh, I'm jealous that you guys are using career pathways. Okay. We got to get on the ball, Virginia. Love it.
And then Damien also shared at the managerial level how to use the mission statement to broaden staff's perspectives of the service they provide the individual clients they serve, from micro to macro impact.
Absolutely. I love that. That's very good.
That's it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all sharing your mission statements. It's really nice to hear that variety. And I'm telling you now, one of the things that's important about our voices, about your voices, is that, as you heard from some of the folks on this Zoom, they are updating their mission statements. So we could have a say. You will have a say. You can have a say in updating that. It's nice to hear what other states are doing and how they're utilizing words to just make sure the public understands what we do and who we serve. And so I think it's important to share that, take it back and say, guess what I heard today? This is Maine's, mission statement. This is so-and-so's. And have we thought about incorporating this? Those were good conversations. Thank you for sharing that. I want to talk a little bit about defining your vision, right? This is a fun conversation. It's a fun topic for me. So our dear friends over at Wikipedia talk about a vision statement is a high-level, inspirational statement of an idealistic, emotional future of a company or group. I love this definition, because what it tells me is it can be as out there as I want it to be, because it's our vision. It's what we want for the future. So listen to this. This is the vision statement I'm going to read. It's here on the screen. As a highly engaged, efficient, and collaborative team, we will be the agency's leading district in the areas of customer service, innovation, and successful outcomes. Visions imply change, okay? They do, because again, it's an idealistic, emotional future. So there's change involved. They imply that there's going to be a little bit of a challenge, not necessarily bad, just a challenge to staff, where they have to rise to the occasion. That's going to be part of the vision. And that could be for anything, you know, individually. The vision could be to get more referrals, to improve our outcomes. It could be, as mentioned here, leading the district in customer service, innovation, successful outcomes. So the vision really talks about what the hope is for the future. So the vision I just read and that you see on the screen, as a highly engaged, efficient, and collaborative team, we will be the agency's leading district in the areas of customer service, innovation, and successful outcomes. This vision, this vision is the vision that we came up with, the managerial team that I lead in my district. This is a vision we came up with when we were really developing our strategic plan. And we've gone back and forth even on a higher level to talk about, if we have a mission statement, do we need a vision statement? Do we need both? And you know, everyone had their own personal opinions about that. My personal opinion is yes, especially on our level, right? On your level, because everyone abides by the mission statement, but then you have to think about, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for this office and that office? What does that mean for my people, right? And that's where your vision comes in. That's where your vision statement, and how you want to go accomplishing that, what that's going to look like. When my management team, started talking about our vision, we had all sorts of things on there, and we used the process where we were writing words on walls and short sentences and combining things and crossing things out. We used the dot system where we had those, you know, those colored sticky dots, and we were kind of ranking which one we liked best and so on and so forth. And it was a lot of fun. You wouldn't think it would take so long to get it right, but it matters, right? Because we wanted to make sure that this was our vision, and we were going to share it with everyone in our district, about 70 people. We were going to share it with, you know, our commissioner and so on and so forth. And so this is how we were going to be in our district. And what we decided to focus on, of course, is where we want to go. How do we want to be known? Which is part of what Wikipedia says a vision statement has, that high level inspirational statement. So that is just an example of our vision. So in talking about your role and your vision and coming up with a vision statement, I want to just talk about that for a minute. When I did my 360 evaluation, I mentioned that's how I started to think about my values. It is also where I had inspiration to come up with a vision statement, because it may have been even just one comment or two in the evaluation where someone said, what do you want us to be in this district? You know, how are we all working together? What do we represent? And they just had all these questions, which made me think, I need to get clear on that, you know. And my managers, we talked about it, and they said, yeah, we do. We go to work, we do our job, but we want to have focus. We love competition. We talked about how important it is to have good customer service, which is something I value a great deal. And so we kind of talked about what our role in the vision was. And we had to talk to our teams about our vision statement early, which we did. That's something you all should do as well. Talk about your teams about why we're thinking about this, what we're going to do with it, what does it mean. We also talked to our teams about who wants to be involved in this, who wants to be a part of shaping our vision for our district. In this case, we were talking about a district. It could be for an office, if that's what you so choose. But it was important that we allowed others to help shape the vision with us, because it's not just my vision, or not just about my values, but others as well. We had to make sure that while we were starting to think about it, that this wasn't a one-day thing. It took us a little while to put something on paper and then think about it and go back to it and make revisions and cross things out and rank again and so on and so forth, just because we wanted to improve it until we were satisfied with what we had. We had to give our vision a test run, right? So once we thought we had what we wanted, we introduced it to a focus group. It wasn't to everyone, wasn't all 70 people, but people from within our districts with various roles, counselors, administrative support staff, evaluators, just various people, and just wanted their opinion on it and what they thought about it. From there, we did have to go back. We had some recommendations and we did the same process again. And then we came up with the vision that you all just saw. And it was important that we each, because we were investing so much in this, that we know and able to recite our vision statement. Because the reason that was important is because it was important for staff and everyone in our district to understand these things are important. Customer service is important. Being innovation is not only important, it's a value. So when we're looking at doing things differently, it's like, oh, right, okay, that makes sense. That is part of our vision statement. That is a value that we're holding. So it's important for us to really understand it and get used to and know our vision statement. And it was important for us, those staff that were involved in the focus group that sat with us in helping to create that vision, but also those that are exemplifying it every day in their work. It was important that we started to reward them for that. Because nothing, it stinks when you kind of think of something new and change things and you're excited about it, but then it just dies down, it stalls. So it's important that we reward excellence for those staff who embody the vision statement in their work, in their external relationships, their internal, that they are being innovative or helping us come up with new processes or new ways of working smarter, not harder, that they, are exemplifying really good internal and external customer service, that they are improving outcomes and so on and so forth. So we wanted to make sure that since this was out here, we are now recognizing you for that. And we have a whole incentive reward system for our staff just in our district, and that has flowed to the offices just for that. That's something that we can do in our role, which is really exciting. And it really speaks to retention and morale with your staff when you kind of incentivize them and give rewards for those things, because it's a big deal. All right. So when we think about a really good vision statement, we're really looking at, it's really building off the work that you're doing today. A vision statement, it allows room to create goals that support the vision statement. It's ambitious, it is out there, but it's still realistic, it's doable. It needs to inspire. That's where the change comes in, but it needs to be inspiring, something that people want to work towards, motivating and succinct. So as an example, the work you do today can help maximize part of your vision statement. So if some of the work you do today has to do with referrals or successful closures, you can build that if you want into your vision statement. So a lot of research talks about characteristics of your vision statement. You'll get some various different things, but the 5 that I like to talk about have to do with having a picture, change, values, a map, and a challenge. So when you talk about a picture in your vision, the picture, a vision creates a picture of the future of whatever you're trying to do, your office, your district, your region. and it's an ideal image of where your office should be going. That's why it's so important to explain it when you're talking about your vision. You're really giving people a mental picture of what that looks like. The next thing is it's going to have a change, right? So the vision should represent a change in the status quo. It's moving your organization from this to this. In our vision statement, we were talking about customer service, which tells people we are moving towards better customer service. It talks about successful outcomes, which tells people we are moving towards better successful outcomes. So vision statements talk about doing things in a new way that are ultimately better than before. It doesn't mean whatever you were doing before was horrible. It just means it's something we're doing more of or increasing in a positive way, okay? The other thing, values, we talked about. So the ideas and beliefs that your staff will find worthwhile can be found in your vision statement. Innovation, that was a value that we had in ours. They're grounded in values, most vision statements. They are advocating for a positive change somewhere in there, in some movement towards that. So your values help you address what matters in your vision statement. And when we started looking at our vision statement, we talked about what are our values. We asked our bosses, our leaders, what their values are as well, because we wanted to incorporate that in some of the things that we were looking at for our vision statement as well. So the other thing that you'll find is a map. So within the vision plan, there's a mental map that gives direction, meaning, and purpose. It's okay if as you're creating this and thinking about this, it does not have to be perfect the first time out. You don't have to get it right or nail down the first time. The mental image in your head may not be fully executed, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be, but to starting to think about it and getting it put out there and starting it is what really has to happen for anything to happen. The nice thing is that it can be changed. It can be updated if need be. And that's the good thing about kind of having these vision statements and creating this map. It gives direction, it gives meaning, and it gives purpose. So the final characteristic of your vision is the challenge itself. And that simply acknowledges that in order for things to change for the better, something has to happen. That people, for example, in my district, our employees, that they have to rise to the challenge of doing something different. That means they have to rise to the challenge of doing something different in terms of their the way in which we provide customer service, the way we answer the call, the way in which we obtain successful outcomes. Maybe we're not just looking at a job, but we're really focusing on those career pathways, right? So there's always a challenge involved in when you're developing your vision statement. Sometimes it makes people a little nervous. This is kind of where resistance comes in from a lot of your staff when they see this part. But again, that's why it's so important to get people on board, to get them involved and let them be a part of this, that it's not something you're doing by yourself, that you are getting as many people to the table to help you with that vision for your area. So I just want to talk about defining goals. There are workplace goals, there's personal goals. Like come January 2024, you might have a personal goal of dropping those 10 pounds we all gained from the holidays. That's different from our workplace goal, right? Of course, they might affect each other because my workplace goal would be stop going into the break room where there's carbs overload. But main difference is workplace goals. Shows you that you're committed to the success of the agency. It's all about where you work. It addresses inconsistencies in the office, increases staff motivation. It can develop new opportunities for staff to develop and grow. And they're specific to the agency, whereas personal goals, it's not increasing staff motivation, it's increasing your motivation. It helps you define how you can advance and grow, not everyone else. It's all about you. It gives you a sense of direction. They're always specific to you. Those are the difference between personal goals and workplace goals. We're going to be talking about some workplace goals. I know all of you are used to seeing and have seen SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. The reason I wanted to talk about goals, why it's so important, as we've talked about mission and vision and values, as we're thinking about these things, we have to naturally build goals around some of these things we want to do. We have a mission statement, we have a vision statement, and we said what we want to do, who we want to serve, what our outcomes should look like. That's all based on our goals. And so that's why it's important to bring this into the conversation. I'm not going to go into detail about what SMART goals are. I do think most of you know what they are, but it's important as you start to think about them based on your vision statement, that you start to think about how those goals will get you to your vision. Are they specific? How are we going to measure them? Can we measure them? Are they actionable? Are they realistic? And what time frame are we putting to these goals? And I'll show you an example at the end. So goal setting, it can be a combination of setting specific, measurable, and actionable steps that help an employee or agency, of course, move towards a lot larger desired result. For example, whatever your vision is for your office, those goals will get you there. And when you talk about that, your vision, that's how you have to explain it to people. The reason we have these goals and we're doing this is because we want to get here. And this is how we have to do it. So, it all kind of paints that picture for people. So there are different types of goals. There's process, performance, there's outcome. Hold on, I just need to get to my notes for 1 second. Here we go. So process could include, excuse me, anything from addressing how things are being done from a process standpoint in your office. You might have a goal in your office that talks about needing to get to eligibilities done in a timely manner, or getting people to plan in a timely manner. So that might be a process goal that you have. And in doing that, you might be addressing innovation within your vision. You might have a performance goal, which might be, we're going to increase the number of successful closures this year by 25. And you might have an outcome that could include anything from increasing numbers of activities to increasing your credentials or something like that. Those are the different types of goals. And it's important that when you start to think about the goals for your vision, that you're breaking them down based on, are you looking at process goals, performance goals, or outcome goals? And you may be looking at all of them, which is fine, but you want to make sure you're defining that so people understand these are the types of goals that we're going to be looking at. They can address anything that relates to accomplishing your vision. You may have more performance goals because that's what's needed than process or outcome, and that's okay too. It doesn't have to be even. You may have process and performance, but no outcome, which I doubt in our areas, what we do. But you can have different arrangements of those types of goals. So when we talk about workplace goals, it's okay to come up with as many as you can. It's important as you start thinking about those goals to come up with as many as you can, but you do have to be prepared to narrow them down. Because again, we want to be realistic, right? And we want to think about the time frame involved in reaching those goals. When we thought about our goals in my district, we ranked, again, using those sticky dots, and we leave them up. We look at them, we go back to the goals, and we ask staff to go in and rank them. We gave them sticky dots, and we're like, hey, in your free time, look at these goals, rank them and see where should our focus be. And it was important that we spoke with staff on a regular basis, talking about their role in reaching the goals, because we have different roles: counselors, admin staff, evaluators, and so on and so forth. So we needed to be clear on their role in helping us reach those goals. So as you begin to work on your goals, you'll find that some are pretty easy to achieve, and it's important to have those that are easy to achieve. This just goes back to morale, quite frankly. And then you'll have things that aren't that easy to achieve. Still realistic, but it's going to take some time, and that's okay too. But the intention of goals is to talk about them. It's to keep going back to them. If you're not on track, have conversations about the process, and talk about what you need to do to get there. And as you reach those goals, be prepared to add more goals as you go along. The magic number for goal setting is typically 3, because that's realistic in a lot of places. Anything more than that, it's really hard to achieve the effects that you want to see. That's just something, to remember. And you always want to consider who is in charge of those goals, who's responsible, how are we going to get there, and what time frame are we giving ourselves? Is this 6 months? Is this 2 years? Those kinds of things. And always communicate and share your goals, not only with your staff, your colleagues. I've shared it with my colleagues. I shared it with my leaders, because 1, it was a way to hold us accountable, right? And 2, it was part of growth and development for me, for my staff. We said we wanted to be innovative. This is what it was. So it's important to share that. But accountability was a big piece of that. So this is just an example of some of our goals in my district, and I'll just go over maybe 2 of them. We have one under, I'll talk about outreach, because that's one of my favorites, the last one here, number 4. One of our goals we have is based on outreach, and our goal is to build awareness and present consistent messaging regarding the district, and its work to ensure that collaboration with stakeholders is well understood, trusted, and highly visible. Work to understand the Capital District's brand and maximize its potential in order to meet the agency's mission. So we have a whole team of folks, small team, but effective, I think it's about 11 people, that are working on this part of our goals from our vision. They're working on outreach. We have, they ordered collared polo shirts that we wear to events that say DARS. Because we needed to work on our branding, our public awareness. Everyone practiced their elevator speech. So when they go out and they're meeting new people and they're going to community events, they had an elevator speech, which took into play the mission statement, the vision statement, and their own values. Each person specifically had, each team member had specific target areas. Some included Hispanic and Latinx communities. Some included churches and religious groups. Another was kind of like OT and PT offices and things like that. Another goal that we have talks about competencies. So actually, I'm going to go to morale, because I like that one. Morale, providing growth and developmental opportunities to individuals within the district, continuously evaluating workload capacities, and work with team members to identify opportunities for improved efficiencies and effectiveness, and maximize opportunities to recognize the work team members are doing within the district. I think it was Justin earlier on, before I started, talked about, I think he talked about like I think it was a mentorship program for new staff or something like that. Our team who's working on morale, they've developed a mentorship program as part of that, where people could not only act as mentors, but they can be mentees. Not necessarily just for newer people, but for seasoned people too. Maybe people wanted to be a mentee, but wanted to be a mentee to someone not within our district. So we're pairing them up with people in our agency, but maybe in different parts. Maybe they want to have a mentor, someone who works in brain injury or aging or wherever. Excuse me, but 2 others are best practices and competencies. Those are also goals that we have, just as an example. So that is all I have right now or today. And I rushed through the last part just a little bit just for time, but do any of you have any questions, any comments, or anything like that?
I just have a comment. With the state of North Carolina, they're changing the name of vocational rehabilitation to diversity, inclusion, equity, and some other word. Which I'm quite sure they're going to end up changing the vision statement, mission statement altogether. So
Very
that
nice.
was, yeah.
That's great. That's great. I love that. I have someone's business card that I met recently who worked at another agency, and they have, read their business card on the back. They have all their values, which I also love. I thought that was really nice. And it matters because again, people will want to work with you. They go to you if they value some of the same things that you value. And it's important for people to know who you are. That's great. Anything else? All right. I thank you so very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Kristen. I know, girl, I did not mean to cuss at y'all. Did the interpreter sign that? He probably did because he's efficient. I just want to learn the sign, but I'm gonna ask him on the side. No, I'm just kidding. That's rude. All
I'm
right.
sorry, Sharina. This is Damien from Washington, D.C.
Oh, there
I
you
had one question for you. You mentioned, you referenced rewarding staff
Yeah.
who were, embodying the mission and the vision and the goals and all that. And I was just curious as to what were some of the strategies that you all use for rewarding, and how have you all noticed a spike in performance as a result?
Let me tell you, that's a great question. Thank you for asking, Damon. I've noticed a spike in these greedy folks wanting all these rewards. They're like, Sharina, I did this, I did this. I'm like, you are not getting rewarded for that. That's your job. No, but but the nice thing is people have really they rose to the occasion quite nicely. And we have a system, a point system, if you will, where people get incentives or rewards based on what they did. And it's based on good, better, and best. And so, for example, if someone bought in a new referral source, like not a typical school or mental health, things like that, if they bought in a new referral source, then they're rewarded for that. And they could do something like they would have 8 hours of leave. Or, if someone came up with a new process that helped their office or other offices in the district help us do something differently that helped us in our processing and time frame, that was a really big reward. And I would give them a gift card. Sometimes we'll do lunch with me, or sometimes I'll treat them to, a coffee, breakfast. Sometimes they'll get to wear dress down for a week. So if they wanted to wear jeans, or something every day for that week, they could. They could skip staff meetings. They could get a flower or plant for their office. So various things. They do have to track it themselves and report it. But the nice thing about it, initially we were getting more people interested in those things for outreach, because outreach was fun. It's new. People love getting out and talking to people. One for everybody, but some people really liked doing that. And so they've really just embraced it. And they absolutely love it. We're in year 2 of this plan that we've developed based on everything. But yeah, that's what they do.
Very insightful. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome. And we did send a survey to folks. At first, the managers and I kind of came up with these incentives, but then when we asked staff to be part of this, they were like, you don't know what I like, which is very true. So we said, let's send out a survey. They were like, you pick them things you like. So we sent out a survey and they told us what they like. And that's what we incorporated into the incentive plan. Thank you.
This is Justin. I just thought of something, and I don't know that it's directly related to rewarding people's performance specifically, but I have noticed in my office, in Portland, that supervisors and our regional manager I'd say it's probably at least every couple of weeks we'll bring in some sort of like food or refreshments and just kind of have it out there in our common area in our kitchen. And I know I'll only speak for myself, but sometimes I get a little hangry, and especially if I have a lot of work to do and I'm stressed out and I'm also hungry, I always appreciate that gesture of them kind of thinking of us and bringing in coffee or bringing in donuts. Or I know last week before the Thanksgiving break, we had the supervisor brought in a big container of pea soup for us. And so those type of gestures to me just kind of reinforce that people do notice that we work hard,
Mm-hmm.
and so those things are really appreciated.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you guys, one of the most important things that I want you to take from this is doing this, no matter where you sit right now, you can do this. I think it's in if you're interested in growth, this is how this all got started. For me, it's figuring out how I could grow as a leader, but also having a positive effect on staff and bringing them to the conversation, because this wasn't, when you think about mission statements and vision and values, this is something everybody can start doing. You can start having this conversation with your colleagues, with counselors, no matter where you sit. So please don't think that you can't or it won't matter. I promise you it does. Anything else?
Sharina, I really like that you shared that in your conversations with staff, especially at evaluation time and even in interview time, that you're asking, what are your values? And you're really taking a deep dive into what those values mean for each individual. For me, what faith, family, connections may be a different meaning for someone else. So I really think that's a powerful way of not only just showing that you have your values, but also helping our colleagues to understand what they mean to us and how it shows up. The example that you use about protecting my peace and what that means when it comes to not reading emails at 9:00 at night. I think that's really powerful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I shared a story at CSAVR where one of my managers, we were having a long meeting and I was like, we're going to take a 15-minute break. And she was like, oh, can I talk to you about something? It didn't just say we're going to take a break. That means we're breaking. And I said, no. I said, this is me protecting my peace. And I said it nicely, of course. I didn't say it like that. But that is an example where it's very easy for you to say, yeah, come on, come talk to me, come walk with me. But, walk the walk. That's your value. Walk the walk. People will see that, and you should as well in other people. So thanks again. I really appreciated our conversation and time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharina. Any other comments or questions for Sharina? All right, we're going to take a short break. We have her email in the chat. Please send a shout out to Sharina and thank her for her presentation today. And if you have questions or want to follow up, feel free to connect. Let's take a break. It's 1:25 Central Time. So let's take a 20-minute break and come back at 1:45 Central Time. Thank you.
No, take care.
Bye. Welcome back. I am going to be sharing about awareness, belonging, and courageous leadership. Excuse me. Welcome back from break. So for this session, I am covering an introduction to our session on the ABCs of competence and humility. I think I'm saying that right. We recently changed the name, so we call it Awareness, Belonging, and Courageous Leadership. So here it is. Just to give you a quick overview, some of you have attended this. It was formerly called just the ABCs of Cultural Competence and Humility. And then we added a certification, and it was the Diversity and Inclusive Leadership Certification. And based upon the current environment. We rebranded this to the Certification in Awareness, Belonging, and Courageous Leadership. So I'm going to be pulling from pieces of the training and sharing with you all as it relates to your homework assignment. Just to give you a quick overview though, the ABCs training, part 1, and you can get this on our website. The ABCs of Cultural Competence and Humility covers 6 classes. Those classes include a session on awareness, accessibility, belonging and bias, and civility. The faculty who teach those classes include Dr. Dana Sia, Inger Neal with CSAVR, and Veronica Jackson. We also have 2 classes on employee resource groups and cultural identity. And we have guest faculty who share in those sessions. I'm also faculty for the session on bias and belonging. To get the certificate of completion for the part 1, there is a test that participants complete, an evaluation and discussion board post as well, that is included. And so if you only sign up for part 1 with those, I think it's 9 hours, you get a certificate of completion. I'm sorry, can't get my voice clear. If you sign up for the complete certification, there is a part 2. Part 2 is also 6 classes. The 3 C's of inclusive leadership includes a discussion on civility, communication, and courage, which is a 2-part class. And then there is a session on disability and rehabilitation and LGBTQ awareness. Faculty for that, again, includes Veronica Jackson and Inger Neal and myself. And we have other guest faculty who teach the sessions on disability and rehabilitation and the LGBTQ awareness. To get the complete certification, participants must also take a test, complete the evaluation, post on the discussion board, and in addition, there are 3 homework assignments. The certification is issued by the CRCC organization. I'm not going to try to guess what those initials mean because I look them up every time. But we also partner with them for this training. They provide the certification. We also partner with CSAVR. They also support the outreach for this training. And if you would like more information about some of the strategies that we're using in the training, we have a toolkit that we provide. It's also on our website under resources. Our website is https://uacurrents.org. So for our overview today, in our short time, we'll discuss the certification. We'll talk about culture, our ethical responsibility, activities around awareness, and our way forward. So I'm pulling again from the training sessions that Dr. Dana Sia has provided, Inger Neal, one of our previous faculty, Dr. Susan Flowers Benton, and from Veronica Jackson. So all of this has been compressed from an 18-hour training down into a 1-hour session. So we'll speed through some things. We'll take a break and do some breakout and have some discussions on some other things. The most important thing about this I want you to take away is that this is about us connecting with one another and sharing. So there'll be lots of opportunities for discussions today. I would like to reintroduce myself. My name is Dr. Robin Freeman. I am the director of UA Currents. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a wife. I am a Black female. I'm an educator. I'm a Christian, a leader, an author, and a researcher. Things that motivate me include innovation, independence, belief and trust, a belief in me, a belief in others, having a sense of trust, creativity, and inclusion and belonging. I also list those as my values, and adventure. I like to have fun along the way. My values, and this goes back to what Sharita has shared, include my values include justice, creativity, hard work. I always put my back into anything that I'm doing. Faith, family, and connections, and making a difference. And the legacy that I want to leave behind include having that sense of belonging, that everyone matters, and that along the way I helped somebody, that I made a difference. So as an icebreaker, if you would like to share, come off mute, because Sharita has just finished giving us a great introduction to personal values. What motivates you? What do you value? Have you thought about that already? And what legacy do you want to create, or do you want to leave behind? I'd love to hear from 2 or 3 of you. If you would come off mute and share, and I'll mute myself and try to clear my throat again.
What motivates me is my son who has autism, a disability. What do I value from him, and as his mom, is how his outlook on life, carefree. And if I had a legacy that I want to leave behind, is to live life to its fullest. And
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Live life to the fullest. I love that. Anyone else would share what motivates you? What do you value? And what legacy do you want to create or leave behind? Feel free to unmute, or perhaps you can share it in the chat.
This is Kyla. I think what motivates me the most is seeing smiles on people's faces that I can help. And I value just being able to help others.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Kristen writes, I want to leave things better than I found them, for lack of a better cliche. I don't care about making people money, so I'm not terribly useful in typical employment. I love knowing I can make a difference in people's lives. Thank you, Kristen. I love that Veronica always shared from the moment I've met her that her values are not to make a million, but to make a difference. I think that's her tagline in her email, and has been since we met in 2016, probably before that. Michael shares, my family motivates me. I value teamwork and being able to be there for those who are important to me. I want to make things better and make it easier for those who will come after me. Thank you, Michael. Anyone else want to share what motivates you? What do you value? What legacy do you want to create or leave behind? Not hearing anyone or seeing anyone come off mute, but think about this for your accountability groups. And this is a great icebreaker to share. If you run out of things to talk about in your homework assignments, talk about what motivates you. Share this with your colleagues. This is a great way to make connections, to find our commonalities with one another. To go beyond making assumptions about how people show up, why people show up the way that they do, to really understanding what drives, what motivates who we are in the workplace. This is important as we have this discussion today about awareness, belonging, civility. All of these things impact how we show up in the workplace and our ability to be the best version of ourselves. So I thought I'd start off this discussion not only in having this icebreaker so that we can make connections, draw that connection to our values, but also to talk about more in terms of the definitions that where we're coming from in our training on this. Diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belonging. These are the common definitions that we use in our training. Diversity is the representation of multiple cultural identities. Here lately, diversity has become sort of a lightning rod for many people. But in its simplest form, it's just a representation of multiple cultural identities. Equity is providing the specific tools and resources each person needs to succeed. What's going to be the tools that I need to succeed are going to be different from the tools and resources that you need. So an equitable work environment is going to be different for all of us. Inclusion is hearing and taking into consideration the voices of multiple cultural identities. One of my favorite quotes from Verna Myers, who is a diversity and inclusion leader, says that diversity is being invited to the dance. Inclusion is being asked to dance. Diversity and inclusion are often grouped together, but they're different. You can employ me in your organization in response to your organization's values of having a diverse workforce, but never include me or hear my voice or make me feel like I'm a part of the organization. Inclusion takes it a step further. It gives me a seat at the table. It says that my voice is important in the decision-making process. It takes into consideration my identities. Accessibility is designing programs and opportunities to ensure all persons and all abilities can fully engage in the organization. When Inger Neal does this presentation on accessibility, she really talks about the difference between providing an accommodation does not necessarily make your event, your program, your PowerPoint accessible for everyone, and how that we really need to start thinking about universal design and all that we are putting together. And then belonging is that sense of safety and security that allows individuals to bring their whole selves to the workplace to achieve their full potential. We had some discussion about this definition of whether we should say bring our full selves, our whole selves to the workplace, or whether we should say here, bring our whole professional self. What do you think? Should we have workplaces that encourage us to bring our whole self to the workplace or some version of ourselves? Any thoughts or opinions on that?
I think it's that you should bring a part of yourselves, because when a person knows all about you, then that could, hinder you from sharing anything with anybody. So you become, what's the word? Withdrawn, because everybody knows everything about you now. So
right.
Give them enough to feed on. That's it.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that. And I think, is it Naira said the same thing. Do you think the two should be separated? Can you tell us more?
Yes, and I'm just thinking in regards to me in particular, just kind of given all that you do in your workplace, it can kind of take a toll on you. Like once you, cross that threshold going home and stuff, and you won't be your best self, like with your personal life, with your family, your friends, things like that. So I think the two should be separate. You should give 100% of, whatever you're giving them, but also it should be like an equal amount.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
Dr. Freeman, it's
Yeah.
Nicole. I've
Hi,
read
Nicole.
this. Thanks. I read this more as like because it says having a sense of safety and security so that they can achieve their full potential. I was thinking that belonging was more for like people of all religions and sexual orientations and cultures and things like that, like being able to bring that part of yourself into the workplace and feel safe.
Yeah, your whole identity, whatever your multiple identities are, you feel safe and secure knowing that you can bring your whole self to the workplace to achieve your whole potential. Absolutely. Any other thoughts about this definition or what it means to have that sense of belonging? And while we're talking about belonging, I'll ask the next question, if I can get over here. When have you experienced belonging in the workplace? What conditions existed for you when you felt you achieved your best self? You had that sense of safety and security. It's like the perfect recipe. And my sister just texted me for my recipe for 4-day layer delay. I was like, you can get it off the internet, but I'll share it with you. But it's like, to me, it's the perfect dessert for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It is the same way with having belonging in the workplace. You have this perfect recipe that brings all your favorite flavors, all your favorite things together. What's in that recipe for you?
I'll kind of speak up not quite about this question, but related to the initial question about belonging. And I understand what the first two of you are saying about separating, personal issues from workplace, that it keeps your boundaries set and doesn't make you feel like you've overshared. But I have found with my staff that they will share stuff that's going on with them personally. And I think it's so that the people they work with know that there might be a struggle going on the side, whether it's a family member or a personal medical going on. And I kind of view that as them trusting me to not blab it all over the place and not hold it against them, but understand they're coming from a place of struggle on some days. And I think I think that sense of trust breeds belonging generally for all of us, that we feel it's a safe space to tell our coworkers what's going on in our lives. And then they get a positive response, that's, supportive response.
Thank you, Katie. I love that. When I think about that belonging in the workplace, there's a phrase that I associate with that, and that's psychological safety. And you can Google that. There's research studies on it, lots of articles that talk about psychological safety. And if you deep dive into what that means, the first thing is going to be having that sense of trust in your colleagues, in the workplace culture, that I can be who I am, that I don't have to layer up, that I don't have to put a facade on to be a different person. I don't have to, what's the word, when we're using the work language and then we use our regular language at code switch. I don't have to code switch. I don't have to do any of that. I can just be me in the workplace, and people are accepting of that. I can make mistakes and I don't get called out about it. I don't get talked down to about it. I can show up in a workplace where people have time for me, that their body language doesn't give the impression that they don't like me or that they don't want to be around me, that they're rolling their eyes or looking at their watch or looking at their phone when I'm talking with them. or people, when I'm sharing my ideas, not cutting me off and or demeaning me in some way, or they just avoid me because they just don't want to be around me. I want to be in a workplace because as I think Sharina said earlier, we're here 40 plus hours a week, whether it's virtually or in person. I'm spending a lot of time at this organization. I want to feel like I belong here, that I can truly be who I am to maximize my potential. Gretchen says, I like that. I'm still thinking about the question whether to keep your true self apart from the workplace. I think there will always be a part of us that will be there, no whether we try to separate it or not. I also think that over time we can lean into being our true self at work when trust and relationships are established, as Katie suggested. I love that. And you know what? We're going to talk about establishing trust in relationships today because we really feel strongly here at your occurrence that that's the core of any great leadership skill, that we have to be able to engender trust in our colleagues, that we have to be able to build strong connections, strong relationships if we want to move forward with overcoming any retention or recruitment problems that we have, that we want to improve morale and motivation in our workplaces. So go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is Courtney. I was just going to add to that. I do think, I agree that, I mean, I don't necessarily think we all need to bring everything to work, but I do think that the times that I've felt the most belonging in a workplace are when I feel like people know me as a person and not just as a coworker. And I think, I think those two things are really connected. Like Gretchen said, like, you know, they can't be entirely separate. Like, I also think that our personal values inform our work values and vice versa to some degree, right? So like for me, family is like my children are my world, right? And so like that is going to play in at some points in my work life, like, you know, but it's also going to, you know, help me provide services to families, right? Like there's just, they're all connected. And I think we need to, in order to respect workers and, you know, respect staff who, you know, for whom family is really important, we need to make sure we're offering opportunities for them to, you know, take care of their kids when their kids are sick or things like that, right? So it plays out in logistical ways as well. So I think just, you know, when I've been able to have relationships where when I come to work, someone says, you know, how are your kids? And I say, you know, ask them how their family is or how their life is. That's when I feel valued as an employee.
Thank you, Courtney. Our workplace values, our personal values, they're all intermingled, they're all connected. And they impact us in our personal lives as well as our work lives. Another definition I'd share is cultural humility is a lifelong process. It includes self-reflection, self-critique, whereby we are not only learning about one another's cultures, but we start with an examination of our own cultural identities. So understanding our own identity first makes us aware and open to that, what was said earlier by Nicole about understanding the identities, the multiple interconnected identities of our colleagues, our coworkers, our clients, and understanding how those show up in the workplace. So on your screen is an iceberg. And like you know, the iceberg, we only see a portion of it above the surface. Beneath the surface is probably 75% of what makes up the iceberg. And so we relate by using this iceberg as a model, we relate culture to the iceberg. So when we think about cultural humility, we have to think, well, what does it mean to have, what does culture mean to us? So above the surface, we usually think about culture as the things that we commonly associate it with how we dress, the foods we eat, how we talk. It could be music or games that we play, our language, literature, festivals, holidays, we tend to associate culture with those commonly held items. However, when we begin to really identify what makes up our culture, understanding our identity, then we have to go really beneath the surface, like the iceberg, to get that 75% of who we are. So culture could include things like our communication styles and rules that are beneath the surface. Communication styles and rules include facial expressions, body language, eye contact, our personal space, the gestures that we make with our hands, handling and displaying of emotion. Our deep culture includes notions of courtesy and manners. Do I speak when I show up in the room, and why do I do that? Our notions of friendship and leadership and beauty, our concepts of time, our family and self, how we think about the past as well as the future, our sense of fairness and justice. Our deep culture, what makes up our identity and what we believe, our values also include our attitudes towards seniors, citizens, children, our pets, how we think about rules and work and age, cooperation versus competition, authority, as well as death, and how we recognize death or celebrate the passing of people in our lives. Also, our deep culture includes our approaches to religion and courtship, how we rear or raise our children, our concepts of marriage, what we think about how decisions should be made, or how problems should be solved. So culture is not just those external things that we often think about. Culture is generally defined as our shared values, our beliefs, our expectations, our worldviews, our symbols, and appropriate behaviors of a group that provides its members with norms, plans, and rules for social living. There are a couple of words in that definition that I want you really to pay attention to. That includes our values that we've talked about for most of the day today, our values, our beliefs, our expectations, but really importantly, the values that we share. And also think about this is as it relates to groups. We are all associated with different groups in our lives, whether it's our families, our work, our units, our community groups, cultural groups. All of those give us values, they give us cultural norms, it gives us rules for living that make up who we are, and we draw our identity from our association with those different groups. A lot of times we don't think about our identities, we don't think about our culture, and we're usually not aware of it. We often don't, because we don't think about it, we're not consciously aware of it. We don't really know everything that we should know about our culture. And then our culture can be influenced by a range of patterns, behavior patterns. Our culture can change. It adapts to the organization, it adapts to the situation. We can learn our culture, and of course, we can adapt it. Any questions about the cultural iceberg? Another comment about the belonging. For me, I tend to slowly relax and share more over time. Typically, I start with, I'm here to be professional and do my job. Then I grow more comfortable with others and I get to see some of my other sides. Here's a saying that my friends have, now you know Mike. Thank you, Mike. I feel like I'm the same way. I'm slow to warm up to people. Also on your screen is another aspect of cultural identity. And so on the screen is a big circle that says cultural identity. And around it are a lot of smaller bubbles. And in those smaller bubbles are race, ethnicity, gender, age, socioeconomic status and class, religion, sexual orientation, language, mental, physical ability. So our identities, as I shared my identities with you earlier, my identities are a lot. I could tell you my race, ethnicity, my gender, my age, my socioeconomic status, religion, all of those make up who I am. So we have to think about our identities are just complex for all of us. It's more than just what we see outwardly. It could be part of our culture, part of our identity. It could include our language, our communication skills, our ability, our appearance, our organizational role, our beliefs about politics or religion or any other beliefs, and our education. So wanted to spend a little time today. This is an activity from Dr. Dana Sia to talk about your identities and have that conversation in your with your accountability groups. And so we want you to think about the identities that are most meaningful to you. And so you'll need to take some paper. I should have told you this from the beginning. I didn't write it in my notes, I forgot. So you'll want to get some paper or use your computer or some other means of drawing some circles. And on your paper, draw out different size circles to represent your different identities. The size and spacing of the circles will matter. So the larger circles will be the identities that are more important to you. The smaller circles would be less important. If you want to overlap the circles, you can do that as a way of showing that your identities are related to other aspects of your identities. And you can draw as many or as few circles as you would like. So on the screen is an example. There is a large yellow circle and the identity has been blocked out. It is overlapped with a smaller green circle, which has been overlapped with a smaller red circle and a smaller pink circle. So all of those represent different identities. And then separate is another identity that's orange, and that is to represent that does not overlap with the other identities. So my large circle probably for me, would be in the yellow. Large circle would be Black female. Well, yellow for me, the largest circle would be wife mother. The pink smaller circle for me would probably be Black female. The green smaller circle overlapping would be educator. The red circle would maybe be my religious beliefs, Christian. And then over here, the orange circle, I could probably identify as a native Arkansan. Does that make sense to everyone? So take a few minutes, think about your different circles, your salient circles, your identities. Your larger, of course, would be the identities that are more important to you. Overlap any things that are related, and then we'll send you to the breakout rooms. You'll have 7 minutes to talk about your different identities with your accountability groups. So we'll take a couple of minutes here for you to write out your identities. If you don't want to use circles, you don't have to. You could just write a list. Take another minute for you to write out your identities. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and open the breakout rooms. You will all be in your same groups as previously assigned. And you should see something pop up on your screen that invites you to join your breakout room. All right, looks like we all made it back, and we'll have you get my screen. Great. So we're all back, and anyone want to share? I didn't give you instructions once you got in there except to share your identities, but would love to hear from maybe one group to share any observations about your differences, your identities. Anyone want to share?
I'll start, I guess, from group 5. Yes, predominantly female, 1 male. I'd say the balance is the race is white and Black. We all value family. We all feel that's the top. As far as, any other, the ages was a difference. The baby boomers, the millennial, somewhere in between. But that's as much as we all believe have religion. Religion is important.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any surprises, any aha moments in your sharing of your salient circles, your different identities?
Well, we found out in our group, this is Nicole, that we have 3 transition counselors in our group of 5.
Wow.
Yeah. And we talked about that this could possibly be a good exercise to use with our students to get them thinking.
I love that idea. It's a great way to make connections, to understand one another, to build connections, to build awareness of one another in the workplace and what we value as well as who we are. Thank you, Nicole. Anyone else?
I'll go. This is Naira. I think one of the things we noticed at the end, how for some people it's easier trying to list like the identifying factors, and it was hard after that, Black female or daughter, wife, that type of thing, and just kind of think of, okay, well, what else am I outside of work? And so I know for me, that was really hard. I think a couple other people in the group found it a little bit challenging as well.
I agree. The first time I did this, I probably had to look around at maybe Veronica's and others that could say, well, what am I doing? So we had to really think about these things about ourselves and how we show up, who we are. That's why doing this activity for ourselves to build our own self-awareness, doing it in conjunction with your values can really help us develop those deeper connections with our colleagues, deeper awareness of who we are. Go ahead, Damien.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I want to say I think we all agreed that we enjoyed in my team, group 3, we enjoyed the imagery that the iceberg presented us, in terms of demarcating between the surface level and the deeper level kind of cultural awareness. And also just the value, just the recognition that oftentimes, life is so routine that you do a lot, you accomplish a lot, you actually learn a lot, but then kind of unpacking that and assigning, I guess, terms and just the recognition of that to your life, to your culture, and the importance of it. So I think it caused some of us, if not all of us, to sort of consider thinking a little bit deeper, I think, just in terms of who we are and what we represent.
Think deeper. Thank you for sharing, Damien. I think there's a quote that Dr. Susan Flowers-Benton shares in her presentation on awareness about to know yourself is the beginning of wisdom. I think it's an Aristotle quote. To know yourself is the beginning of wisdom. And so how do you go about that? How do you build awareness of who you are, our identities, our values, our personal mission, vision statements? We hope you get to accomplish that after today's training and certainly in the homework assignment today. Why is this important? The 2023 Code of Conduct for counseling professionals tells us that we should respect diversity and respect culture. In A2A, it tells us we should demonstrate cultural humility and respect for cultural identity of clients. And then developing and implementing culturally responsive rehabilitation strategies and treatment plans. So how can we create those culturally responsive plans if we're not aware of the culture and the identity of the people that we're working with? How do you go about finding that out? What are you doing? What questions are you asking? What are you sharing about yourself? And then it also tells us that we should provide adaptive and adapt our interventions to be culturally responsive to the population. There's no one size fits all in this profession. We have to adapt to the person who's sitting next to us or opposite of us. Also, in that code, it tells us in mental health diagnosis and treatment, section H3B, that we should recognize that culture affects the manner in which a client's symptoms are defined and experienced. I never forget, there's a Instagram person, influencer, who talks about how a patient said to a doctor in a mental health facility, "Hey fam," when the doctor entered the room, and the doctor diagnosed that person as needing additional treatment because they mistook him or her for being family. And what the doctor didn't realize is that the client was simply addressing the doctor in a manner of respect for his culture, for his identity. He was just saying, "Hey fam." He wasn't saying, "You my family, you my blood relative." He was just saying, "I respect you," or as a family member. So understanding that culture affects the manner in which we diagnose, how we see people, not even just in our diagnosis, but just how we relate to one another. And then understand the historical and social prejudices in the diagnosis and pathology. Recognize the historical and social prejudices and misdiagnosis of certain individuals and groups. And then we should strive to become aware of and address those biases in ourselves and others. So there's a section there that holds us, that requires us to hold our colleagues, call them into account for their language, their behaviors as well. So we hold ourselves accountable, but we also hold others accountable as well. And then as we aspire to supervision, training, and teaching, that we're sensitive to the role that multiculturalism plays, diversity plays in our supervisory relationship. So thinking about this is important to us in making those connections with one another. John Dewey, and then he was a famous researcher, and also in social constructivist theory, teaches us that we learn through our social encounters by actively engaging with one another and by doing. We learn from our engagement with one another. So how useful is it if we're all the same? I may not learn anything if we're all the same. So there's blessing, or there's value in learning from our differences. So we are seeking alternative perspectives. We're seeking different voices at the table, because when we have those alternative perspectives, when we have people who we don't always agree with around us, then we are increasing our own learning capabilities. When we are having these conversations about our identities, about our values, about our culture, and about our beliefs, these are opportunities to learn. So we should actively employ our listening skills, our observation skills, so that we can challenge our assumptions to see the experiences of others objectively. One of the things that I love about Veronica, she's always encouraging us in her trainings to be curious, stay curious, ask questions, tell me more about your beliefs, or how else could we understand what that person is saying. So we should look for opportunities to go beyond our assumptions, look for opportunities to ask for more information, and challenge what we automatically think about what someone is saying or how someone is showing up. We should also take time to reflect on our own values, our assumptions, and our beliefs before and during our engagement in these activities. Again, to know ourselves is the beginning of all wisdom. So we should practice this. Our own self-awareness is a part of our emotional intelligence. The framework or the foundation of emotional intelligence is to know who we are, what we believe, how our emotions or our emotional responses, and how we show up to others. So this encourages our own active learning. And then consider alternative perspectives. Oftentimes, without realizing it, we are in a vacuum, or we are in a void, and we surround ourselves with people who sound like us, who talk like us, who believe like us. And it's not often that we are around those who have a different view on life from us. But that alternative perspective, again, goes back to that first bullet: learning through social encounters. Engaging with one another helps us to increase our awareness. So what we should ask ourselves, what other values and beliefs could be at work here? And then to be open and curious about the possibilities. Again, the benefits of awareness: it makes us more open to the identity layers of others. It helps us to recognize our own identity and supports development of that cultural humility, that lifelong learning that we talked about in cultural humility. We're not ever going to get there, so to speak. We're on a journey to develop, to become more aware. It helps us to recognize people from similar and different identities and how that can exceed our expectations. Just because I look like other Black women on this Zoom doesn't mean that our experiences are the same, doesn't mean that our backgrounds, our values and beliefs are the same. So there's a danger of grouping us all together as one, right? We can't group all males as one. They all believe the same thing, or all females as one. They all believe the same thing. We recognize that difference doesn't necessarily mean deficit. And then that awareness of ourselves and others broadens our perspectives and our worldviews. SAMHSA, or the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, tells us that counselors who understand themselves and their own cultural groups and perceptions are better equipped to respect the clients with diverse belief systems. They also say that counselors who are aware of their own cultural backgrounds are more likely to acknowledge and explore how culture affects their client-counselor relationships, whether you're working with students or adults, or maybe just with your colleagues. Do the practice with yourself. Learn your own cultural identity. Go through the cultural iceberg and think about your own values and beliefs and from where those things originate, why you believe the way that you believe, so that you're better equipped to understand and appreciate the cultural identities of those that you're working with. Some of the questions, we won't do these questions here, but I would encourage you to think through these questions for yourself as a self-awareness activity. It's not a part of your homework or anything. It's just something I added in here because this is so valuable to start you in a self-reflection activity. If you want to increase your awareness, if you had trouble identifying your identities, then think about these questions for yourself. What are your identities? What are your beliefs about your leadership style, your current occupation, and your work relationships? How do your different identities influence these beliefs? Consider the identities that you don't inhabit. How might those identities and associated experiences influence your values, your beliefs, and behaviors with your colleagues? And what are the similarities and differences that you have with your colleagues? And how do you view those differences? Do you think of them as those differences as deficits? Do you think of those differences as something that is beneficial? So again, this is a self-awareness activity for yourself. These questions, as Sharina shared earlier, she had to do this whole kind of a thesis about her leadership philosophy. And we're not necessarily asking you to write that out, maybe not now, but you probably will be at some point in this training. But these are questions, if you take the time to answer them, helps you develop your leadership philosophy. Also think about having these conversations, as awkward as it may have felt in your breakout session with people that you kind of sort of know, that you've already had a conversation with. It does help you develop that sense of belonging. It fosters trust and it fosters that collaboration. It also helps us to understand that the experiences of people that we are working alongside, working for, that those experiences matter. And dialogue also triggers our emotions, which helps us with our cognition, our thinking, our decision-making, our problem-solving, that impact our learning experiences. Don't avoid the dialogue, even though it's uncomfortable. Get into it, as Tabitha Brown would say. Get into it, because the long-term benefits are exceptional. When we avoid difficult conversations, we trade short-term discomfort for long-term dysfunction. If we're not willing to have these conversations about who we are, our identities, how they impact our values, how it impacts how I show up, imagine the discomfort, the dysfunction. If you're experiencing dysfunction in your workplace now, could this be the reason? One of the presenters at our CSAVR conference in spring talked about, the thing that we're not talking about, the elephant in the room, that impacts us all when it comes to motivation, engagement, retention, and recruitment, is culture in an organization. We have to talk about the culture that drives our organization. So we have to be willing to have these conversations, but it starts with working on ourselves first. So our way forward, what resources are available? We are our best resource. You, me, we, us. We are the best resource that we have for these conversations. We have to be willing to engage in these courageous conversations, to talk about them, to be able to talk about them leads us to creating more trust, and creating that sense of belonging, that psychological safety in the workplace. So it helps us deal with the fears, our egos, discomforts, our expectations and emotions. It requires us to stay present, even when we have deep-rooted agreements. And then we can't challenge the assumption and beliefs of others unless we are willing, unless we want to hear them. So first, we start by examining our own values, our own biases, our own assumptions, and then we are able to have those conversations with our colleagues. So to that point, part of your assignment today for this conversation not only includes writing out your own personal mission and vision statement, and hear me well, I said personal mission and vision statement, not organizational. So in the activity in your homework guide, in your pathways guide, it tells you write out your mission and vision statements. Please do not recite your organization's mission and vision statement. That's great. But we want you to think about your own personal mission and vision statements. And then also there's an activity where you are writing out your own personal values and what those mean to you. For your diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility activity, these questions are there for you to answer. Take a moment to think about the learning objectives that are listed and list 10 words that you associate with a vocational rehabilitation leadership in a culturally inclusive environment. And then how do you incorporate inclusion in your workplace? And think about, on the third question, what you still need to learn and engage in as a leader for your own professional and personal development to build a more inclusive work environment. All right, so there are 4 parts to your homework assignment. The first one, I'm trying to get to the Pathways Guide. Again, is going to be, I'm going to open it up. Okay. Okay. So this is the Pathways Guide. I just want to make sure we're clear on this. So in addition to the written assignments, you're going to have your 3 small group coaching sessions, right? And so you'll get the links for groups 4 and 5. You'll get the links for your coaching sessions. The dates that we had pre-selected were December 8th, 13th, and 15th. So just set aside those dates and then we'll get you the times for groups 4 and 5. Groups 1, 2, and 3, Veronica has already sent you that information, sent you the calendar invite, so you should have that. So you're going to receive your coaching invite, and you're going to participate in 3 sessions. You're going to go through this activity and determine your personal vision and mission statements. Again, that's a personal vision and mission statement, not an organizational one. So it gives you an overview of what a vision statement is. It gives you an overview of a mission statement. It gives you examples of a mission and vision statement. It gives you steps about how to start that process. And then it tells you, write a personal mission statement, write a personal vision statement. Okay. So again, that's you personally. What's your personal vision statement? I wrote out my personal mission statement. The mission of Dr. Robin Freeman is to lead with love, empower and educate, and cause, can't remain ready, and cause transformational change. The mission of Robin Freeman is to lead with love, empower and educate, and cause transformational change. My vision statement is real simple. My vision statement is to make people, organizations, and communities better. All right, so yours could be different. Make it happen. And then there's also on page 20, your personal values activity. We've listed 50 values here. You're going to go through and circle 10. You may have to narrow it down and group together things that are similar, but you're going to wind up with 10. List your top 10 values. Answer the question, how do these values guide your words, your action, and if so, how? How do you feel when you make choices in line with your identified values versus times when you don't? What changes can you make in your life so that your choices and actions are more consistently in line with your values? Okay? Good? All right. And then the last one is a DEIA reflection. We have the objectives to recognize and critically reflect upon our biases, discuss inequalities using the language of equity and inclusion, and recognize and assess worldviews and biases that influence our social inequality. So list 10 words that you associate with VR leadership in a culturally inclusive environment. If you're thinking about your agency, your organization, or VR nationally, it is culturally inclusive, what 10 words make up that environment? And then for you personally, what are you doing to incorporate inclusion in your workplace? And then what else do you need to know? What do you still need to learn? What do you still need to engage in? What do you need for your personal and professional development to build a more inclusive work environment? All right. The last one is the one that I don't have for you yet, but that is a link for you're going to send to 3 people. It'll be a personal link you'll get, and you're going to ask 3 people, your supervisor and 2 colleagues, to do a 360 evaluation on you. You'll get the link by Monday. All right. It'll be personalized for you. You're going to ask them to complete an assessment of you. They're going to talk about your communication. They're going to talk about your strategic mindset. They're going to talk about your decision-making skills, your ability to lead. All right. So you're going to ask them to complete that 360 assessment. Give them a deadline. I suggest you give them a deadline. I'll probably put this in the email by January 16th to complete the 360 so that you, once all of that is done, we'll send the results back to you. And then you just compile the results on this page that's shown. This is page 26. So you'll take all 3 results. You'll compile them and say, okay, these are how my 3 people see my communication skills. This is how they see my strategic mindset, so on and so forth. And then at the end, you're going to write out, what do I need to improve? What are my personal leadership development actions and reflections? Does that make sense? Okay. All right.
Freeman, I just super quick question.
Yeah.
So all of these activities for session 2, we can complete right in the packet that you're going through.
Yes.
Aside from the vision statement and
everything is in the packet. You can copy and paste it out of the packet and send it in with your February 12th deadline. Now you know why you have a February 12th deadline. You have a lot to get done.
All right. Nope, that clarifies it. Thank you.
Miss Meadows has her hand on her head already. I was like, oh my God. Go ahead. You have your hand up.
Real quick, we are short-staffed by management-wise, so one, hopefully she'll be back in January. So she's on FMLA right now, so
okay,
I'm short by one. I know the number of managers to complete
just one.
Just
one.
Okay.
Yeah. And two colleagues.
Okay.
So they could be people in similar positions or.
Okay,
So just one, at least one supervisor or manager.
thank you.
You're welcome, LaWanda.
My question is, I know that we have the sessions this month, the 3 sessions. When is the next time we're meeting with our accountability partners? We didn't schedule one for December, but I just wanted to make sure, like, when is the next time we're supposed to be meeting with our accountability so we can focus on scheduling?
Go ahead and get that scheduled no later than January. Have a meeting with them in January.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Real quick, Robin, for the group 2 people, we were wanting to stay on with an interpreter to go ahead and schedule our next small group accountability meeting.
Sure.
We did that last time. It worked well because then
All right.
everybody knows
we'll be
when we're
here.
meeting. Yeah, thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions, I'll stop the recording. Say have a great rest of your week. Happy holidays. And we will see you in the small group coaching sessions. Yes, I did update the PowerPoint and I will send out an updated one. Thank you.